Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
And the magic number stands at 8. Maybe for the Browns to try to get into the playoff race, but certainly for the Guardians to fly a banner and win the World Series.
I like the Guardians' chances better.
What? I like the Guardians' chances much better. Like we've said this already and joked on the show. Who would have thought the Guardian season would last longer than the Brown season?
Can I hit
Here
you?
we are.
Can I hit you with something?
Please.
By the time Sunday's game kicks off, the Guardians could have outscored the Browns in the month of October. It's 29-19. I added it up.
Oh my God, that's excruciating.
It's 29-19 right now. Browns versus Guardians in points scored.
And that's with the Guardians getting shut out twice.
That's with Guardians getting shut out twice. Yep.
This we'll get to the Guardians. I promise you we will get to the Guardians. We've got so much to say, not just about Game 1 as we look forward, but Game 5.
Yeah.
Like an epic, all-time Cleveland sports moment.
Yeah.
Do we have it in our top 10? Do we have it in our top 5? Anybody here have it in their top 3? We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and rate it. But we have to start with the debacle that continues to be the Cleveland Browns after Mikey's read to get us going. But wow.
Yeah, we got a big show, so we're not going to waste any time getting into it. And we start every show with a quick reminder that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, NFL fans can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. When you get in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats view, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And we're going to start with some shotgun reactions, then dive deep into the Guardians. But both 2 minutes on the Browns from yesterday. The floor is yours.
So the Browns are arguably the worst team in football right now. No matter what you thought about this team coming into the season, nobody would have thought that. No chance whatsoever that you thought the Browns would be the worst team in football. If you think about this, first of all, if the season ended today, I know Tankathon has the Browns with the number 2 pick in the draft. They're wrong. The Browns would have the number 1 pick in the draft right now because of they're tied for the worst record, and the tiebreaker is strength of schedule. And right now, the Browns have played, believe it or not, at 1-5, the 3rd easiest schedule in all of football, and an easier schedule than the other 1-5 football teams. So the Browns would have the number 1 pick in the draft right now. They are completely inept. The coaching staff gets an F. They've done an absolutely terrible job across the board. The offense gets an F. I gave a D- yesterday. My best grade for the offense was a D- to the running back group. Everybody else gets an F. The quarterback's the worst in the league. Remember before the season, we were looking at quarterback rankings, and Deshaun would be 24th and 26th, and we were like, that's crazy. He can't be behind Caleb Williams. He can't be behind Jalen. He's worse than all of them. There's no quarterback on the planet right now. He's worse than Tim Tebow. Everybody on the offense stinks. The offensive line, the wide receivers are terrible. Defense played an adequate game yesterday, but not good enough. In the biggest moments, they couldn't step up. The Devontae Smith touchdown, when they needed to stop them one more time to give the offense a chance, which of course they would have blown, but at least give it a chance. Kevin Stefanski, I've never seen him this lost. He right now is coaching like the worst coach in the league. His time management is awful. His timeout management is awful. I don't know why you're kicking a field goal in that situation. I wouldn't have done it because you still need a touchdown anyway. It wasn't like you could just get another field goal and tie the game. Kevin Stefanski deserves a lot of blame here. He's gotten way too much of a pass. Personally, I wouldn't fire him, but he's costing himself his job with the awful job he's done and the fact that he is not benching Deshaun Watson. It's a disgrace that Deshaun Watson has not been benched. Jason?
I mean, is there anything left to say?
I'm sorry.
I don't need 2 minutes. I need the shotgun. Forget about the shotgun reaction. Just a shotgun will do. I can't disagree with anything you said. Like they're an embarrassment. Everything about it's an embarrassment. And I'm glad that for 2 hours we don't have to talk about them. That we have something else to talk about with a team that brings joy. because it's not the Browns. I just wrote a column for The Athletic on what a toxic relationship this is with Browns and their fans. And the Guardians are always stuck in the friend zone, and the Guardians are always there to dry your tears and mop the floors and hang the pictures back on the wall and sweep up the broken glass.
Well said.
After the Browns blow through town. Yeah, I mean, I've been one of Kevin Stefanski's biggest supporters, and this is a terrible season for him. It's a terrible season for all of them. And at the track they're on, a lot of people are probably going to get fired at the end of the season because of this. I don't know that they all will, but there will be changes because you can't continue down like this. The Browns, depending on what metric you look at, have spent either the most money on this team or the second most or third most. They're top three by every measure. And one of the three most expensive teams in the league has produced a diaper full of this.
Man, I'll tell you what, like for me, I'm all about solutions. And, you know, we could sit here and we could talk about who's to blame for the most. I'm tired of that. I'm tired of trying to divvy up this pie of blame. The whole thing is garbage. I'm into solutions. So I'm trying to figure out, my question to you and Berea is, what is the solution? Are you guys going to continue to come out and, trot the same quarterback out there? Are you guys going to continuously call the same plays, use the same schemes? Because every single press conference you get up and say everything is all good, we'll just work harder at it. But I'm going to just give you a rude awakening. You know, that's right now. You think everything is good, but I don't want to hear it at the end of the season. I don't want to hear, oh, well, we can't really make these type of decisions because, we don't want to put ourselves back in that. You coaching and you playing for your position. I wouldn't take nobody out the game. You know why? I leave them all in there, and I'll be evaluating every single snap, every single rep. I'll be Santa Claus in October. I'm taking names and checking my list twice because I'm going to figure out who's real garbage and who's nice. That rhyme, that was a flow. Don't steal that. By the way, Kevin Stefanski, look, I get it, man. You may be in a bad position. You may be in a situation, Kev, where you feel like you're between a rock and a hard place. But let me just give you something, man. Like I told Deshaun Watson a couple of weeks ago, you might want to go ahead and figure this thing out. And somebody need to pull you aside and say, look, if you don't change nothing and you think you're going to keep coming out here sliding, you won't be here at the end of the year. That goes for Andrew Berry, too. I don't know what the problem he's doing. He's sitting around acting like his roster is great. Where's Kadarius Toney at? Why don't you see what the offensive line is looking like? Why don't you bring nobody in? What are you doing? You're not making any moves. So that's on them. If they feel like they can win and they got enough capital with the fan base that they can just roll this stuff out every single week and we're going to still talk about it, nah, y'all, right now, you're in the apathy zone. Right now, I'm not even salty at y'all. We knew y'all was going to get smoked. We knew you would find a way to lose this game. And the next step is, when people start to figure that out, when the fan base starts to turn and go find other things to do, like watch the Cavs and continue to support the Guardians through this, y'all going to be left holding this bag. And I don't want to hear it. Don't be calling us up. Hey, can we get so-and-so? Hey, well, cover this event. Nah, we're not excited about your dome. We're not excited about the draft. So listen, we're going to figure out who's going to be on this team moving forward. And that goes for everybody, the coaching staff, front office. We're going to figure out these next 8 weeks which one of y'all want to play and which guy's going to be getting replaced.
Well, you started yours by saying they're the worst team in football, arguably. There's other teams we don't know. And that, I think, is debatable. This is not. They are by far the most disappointing team in football. And I know the Bengals are disappointing as well.
No, there's no debate about that.
But to me, the Browns own the distinction of the most disappointing team in football. As long as we keep using our hard-earned dollars to fill Dumpster Fire Stadium to watch this product, we're enablers. We're telling the owner, it's okay. Serve us garbage. We're hungry. And we're going to keep eating. Until we get discriminating and say, no, that's not what I want to eat. That's not what I'm looking at. They're going to keep serving garbage. The worst part about this, to Jason's point, this is the most expensive team in the league. Usually teams that stink don't have the highest payroll in the NFL.
Patriots, Panthers, the other teams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you juxtapose that with what's going on just up East 9th Street. You've got a Cleveland Guardians team who crashed the party. They don't belong in this Final Four. Which of these is not like the other? New York, LA, Cleveland. 1, 2, 3 payroll 21st payroll. You've got two teams in town, excluding the Cavs. One that spends the most and gives you this, and another that spends bottom bargain basement prices and is in the Final Four and has consistently been a member at the party.
Yeah.
Really since, go back to the Browns' rebirth, but really go back to the beginning of Jacobs Field. They're continuously in the conversation. So I had said before this playoff run that the Guardians have a real opportunity here. They have a real opportunity while you're getting a dumpster fire from the Browns to actually slap the fans across the face and say, you want that or you want this? Keep this run going. Give us more October memories. Give us what we've wanted for 76 years. And you may steal a large percentage of the Browns fan base, because I've been a Browns fan for 59 years. I have never, not even 0-16, have I heard what you said. Apathy. We're ate up with it. I turned on the television Sunday and I go, all right, let's see how they do it today. I mean, it's come to the point where I know what I'm going to get. And to Kevin Stefanski, if you're being told to play Deshaun Watson, you should resign today. You should leave or make them fire you so you get paid. Because you have slowly, in 6 games, moved from the category of a good coach who's capable of doing bad during the course of a game. I've changed my opinion. 6 games in, Kevin Stefanski, for me, is now a bad coach who's capable of coaching good football. And that's a hard line for me to move you from one to the other. He was a really good coach who could give us some bad things. Now, because he's doubling down on stupid, he is a bad coach capable of coaching good football. And to the Browns front office, there is one reason why you're trotting 4 out there week after week. He's not just bad this season. He's being compared to Jamarcus Russell, guys. I keep seeing
Achilles Smith.
I keep seeing one list after another where he's ranked 730th.
He's compared
570th.
with Josh Rosen.
It's colossal bad.
Yeah.
The only reason you're paying him, and I now want Browns fans to listen to this, the only reason number 4 is being run out on the field is because the Browns made one of the biggest mistakes in the history of professional sports, giving him $230 million guaranteed. Now, they're making another colossal decision. We got to pay him. You don't have to play him. You don't. I've seen enough.
We'll get into more Browns, but we have a playoff ALCS Game 1 to dive into. We're going to spend the next hour talking Guardians, making sure we give the winning team in this city the appropriate coverage they deserve on a Monday. We're going to get into our Guardians talk, which is brought to us today by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't have to win to receive the bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game when you want. ALCS, Game 1 in New York. Alex Cobb, Carlos Rodon, the pitching matchup. Bull, Jason, GJ. We have made it. We'll get back to the Game 5 heroics in a little bit, but let's focus on tonight. How do you feel about this Game 1 ALCS matchup in the Big Apple with Alex Cobb on the mound for your Cleveland Guardians?
You want to know how I feel, guys? Can we play that video that I texted you, Mike? Because this pissed me off. Play this video.
Let's take tag.
I saw this morning, and this fired me to freak up. The disrespect. Play this, please. Thank you.
Never want to say you never have an easy road to the World Series. But if the Yankees could pick and choose their opponents, I think they got the 2 that they would pick and choose because of the success that they've had against the AL Central.
You don't have to say it. I'll say it. They have an easy road to the World Series.
It's not easy.
And look, it's never easy, right? But this is the clearest path in 20 years.
As usual, the Red Sox was the guy that had the most common sense in that.
I'll tell you something. A-Royd and the failed Marlins owner, they can both shut the hell up, okay? And the real way to shut them up is for the Guardians to kick their ass. I tweeted this video at Jose Ramirez, who I'm sure is not going to watch it, not that he's looking at tweets from
they'll see
from
it.
me to send.
Maybe
but
not
the
from
Guardians
you, but
will
they'll
see
see it.
And every fan, first of all, and I know this is hard and it's not going to happen, but I implore all of you out there, every Guardians fan in our audience, for games 3, 4, and 5.
Don't sell your tickets.
Don't sell your tickets to the Yankee fans, please. I know some people will. I know there's ticket brokers that control these tickets to some degree. Please, if you have any choice, put it out on Twitter. Tell us about it. We'll get tickets to Guardians fans. Please do not sell the tickets. The Guardians need your support. They need the crowd. This home crowd has been amazing.
You know they're going to, though.
I know. Please.
I think you lose the right to purchase tickets in the future if you're going to sell your tickets to the enemy.
That's it.
I mean,
Do
it's
it.
espionage. It's treason. It's fan treason.
It is.
I watched it in 2016 with the
Yes.
Cubs. I watched with the Tiger series. My God, I don't know if it came across on TV. It was disgusting how many Tigers fans were in that stadium.
It is, but with the Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, it's
Well,
going to
the
be a lot
Yankees
worse.
come in with tons of money.
I know.
Detroit's a rust bucket city like us with its own economic problems. The fact that there were that many Tigers fans scares me to think how many Yankees fans are going to fly in with their $1,000 bills, swoop up tickets, and take over Progressive Field.
But here's the bottom line, guys. These teams are evenly matched. I don't want to hear this bullshit about the Yankees being so much better. Derek Jeter and A-Rod, all due respect, I don't know how much they've watched the Guardians play this year.
Little.
Okay? The Yankees won, if it was one division, the Yankees would have finished a game and a half ahead of the Guardians this year. Now, in past years, you could have argued, well, the East is way better than the Central. And in the past, that would have been true.
Not this
but
year.
It's not true this year. Yes, the last team, the White Sox, is way worse than the fifth team in
They had
the
4
East,
teams in
which
the
is-
race all the way up to the
That's
last
right.
week of the season.
But 1 through 4 is pretty even in the American League. Okay, you want to say the Guardians had but they didn't even play great against the White Sox. So they took advantage of the White Sox anyway. The Guardians are every bit as good as the Yankees. Yankees have some advantages. Their lineup is a little better. They have a little more power. They have a slightly better, in my opinion, starting rotation, the Yankees. But the Guardians have a way better bullpen. They're much better on defense, and they're much better on the bases. Both teams have advantages here. I think it's an even series. I think it's going 7 games, and I think the Guardians are going to win Game 7 in the Bronx. What do you think of that? Woo. That's my prediction. I believe that's going to happen. I think they're close. I think it could go either way, obviously. But to set a disrespect from those two, to say it's going to be easy,
but Bull,
that's a
you
disgrace.
grew up in that Petri dish. I worked in it for 10 years.
But that's not even Yankee fans.
No.
That's 2 guys.
It's guys that are ate up with New York culture. And here's the New York culture. And my phone has been blowing up since the last out of Game 5.
Right.
From all the Yankees fans that I've worked with and lived with and I've been friends with for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's all the same message. Can't wait to beat your ass in the ALCS. It's a fait accompli for them. I love that. Now we're the underdog.
That's right, big time.
I like being the underdog. We were the underdog in this series when we fell down 2-1.
That's right.
What happened?
Yep.
Okay, so that's fine. To your point about the lineups, gun to head, which team are you taking? It's close. It's real close, but I'm probably taking the Yankees.
Sure, yeah.
Primarily because of their superstar power.
Yeah.
Now, all of that being said, Jose Ramirez plays like he has in his playoffs past, this is over.
Probably.
We're not beating the Yankees, period, full stop. I had said before the regular season was over, if the Guardians want to make a World Series run, they've got to have Stephen Kwan back. He's got to be 400 Stephen Kwan. He has been. Brian Rocchio, you could make an argument this guy could have been the MVP for the series.
He was phenomenal.
Not pitching.
No, he's playoff Rocchio.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that.
Playoff Rocchio.
I would have been right about my bold prediction if it was based just on the playoffs.
You would have been dead right.
Game.
And
He's
here's
been
the
phenomenal.
thing. Being able to stand 10 feet from where these guys are in the on-deck circle, you get to see that. You get to look in their face. Sometimes I get a bad vibe. Sometimes I'm like, the moment's too big. With Brian Rocchio, I feel like I'm watching him at a family softball game. He is confident. The things he's saying in the hole hitter and to Stephen Vogt, it's unbelievable to me. I'm like, where does this come from? How are you Bucky Dent? How are you doing in the postseason what you couldn't do in the regular season? Yeah. And then the flip side of that to me is Hosey. Hosey, I know he had the home run. He's had some really good at-bats, too,
Yeah.
that didn't end well, but he had good at-bats, which is key. It's simple. He's got to be 437 with a couple of home runs and 8 ribs for them because he's their best player. So, gun to head, give me the Yankees roster. But if you tell me that Hosey's going to be regular season Hosey, I would take the Guardians in this series, and I do think it's going to be a close series.
I would take the Guardians pitching staff as a whole over the Yankees.
How concerned are you guys that our biggest weapon is neutralized in this series? And I say that because you don't have 5 games in 8 days. You have 7 games in 9 days.
They've got to manage the series differently.
And you can't do bullpen games anymore.
No.
You need 5 innings out of your starters.
I think they're going to do it the exact same way.
It will be a fail if they do.
Where it's going to catch up to them is Game 5 at home because Game 1 and 2 back-to-back. But he hasn't really overextended these guys.
I think he's overworked Cade Smith. I think he's
I don't
overworked.
think so.
I do.
What's his pitch level? His pitch counts have been
look at the number of innings
Smith
he's
and
thrown in the
Gaddis
series.
both threw a lot of pitches the last game.
Smith, and look, Clase too.
Clase
When did Clase have a routine come on out 3 innings save?
I thought when he used Sabrowski, that was interesting to me because he got away. And Sabrowski's been good. He's been
really good.
So
there are some questions from that Game 5, but we'll get to that.
If you extend from your top 4 relievers, if you add Sabrowski to that to make it 5, you can extend that a little bit more. If you guys are expecting the starters to go 5-6 innings, that's not going to happen.
Well, then I don't know that they can win it.
He's going to approach this the same. He's going to approach this same way that he did. The lineup's better. Like this is a better team than what they faced against the Tigers. So,
but without the days off, you're going to have to trust your starters. If you're going to be confident enough to trust Eli Morgan and Andrew Walter, then trust Matthew Boyd for 4 innings.
But the difference is you're trying to trust a starter to see him a third time around versus
Boyd
a reliever twice.
I would have been happy with the second
what
time
I would
around
do,
with
see,
Boyd.
against the Tigers, it doesn't matter because they don't have any standout hitters. They're all just kind of okay.
Right.
What I would consider with say all the pitchers besides.
Do Cobb tonight, Bo, because Cobb's on the mound.
Okay, so what I would consider with Cobb, and they're not going to do it, obviously, although they would have said something already probably. What I would consider is having an opener face Judge and Soto the first time around. This way you bring in Cobb in the second inning and then have him pitch 4 innings.
Start Cade Smith. Start Cade.
Yeah, it feels really desperate to me. In
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it feels way too desperate.
I feel like this.
Cade's retired, I think, 19 of the 21 guys he's faced.
That's what I'm saying. Give the top of the order.
Most strikeouts from a reliever ever in a playoff series.
I feel like we are over analyzing the pitching. This series is not going to come down to pitching, and I know that's what usually series people traditionally say in baseball. It's the pitching. In this series, the Guardians won not because of their pitching. The Guardians won because Lane Thomas came up big.
That's true. You're right.
Because Quan was able to get on base.
But 1A was the pitching.
But see, here's the thing. Yeah, 1A is the pitching. But in this series, as you so eloquently pointed out, the Yankees are a better team than the Tigers. You're not going to shut the Yankees out. They're going to get hits. They're going to hit home runs. So the question is, yes, you want to minimize that in terms of your pitching. But for me, the key to the series is Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor has been, we talked about Quan, we've talked about Ramirez and how he's slumping. Josh Naylor not only is struggling, he's had terrible at-bats.
Guess what he's going to hear at his first at-bat introduction tonight?
And he ain't going to be going crazy.
Yeah.
Rocking the baby. 22 years later, it's going to come back.
They're going to be going crazy. So they're going to need him, and they need, it's the others, right? It's the Rocchios of the world. It's the Fries of the world, right? They need those guys to play up to the level that they played in last series or even better, and it's about the runs. If you give up a 2-run home run or a 3-run home run, you still got to come back and answer. They can't not just you down 3-0. I need you to at least come back and chip away with that with a run. Mm-hmm. You can't go long 4 or 5
Tigers
stretches.
did in Game 5.
That's true. It's a good point, G. Because for all the talk about the bullpen, none of the Guardians' 4 big bullpenners, and Cade Smith pitched well, and overall they pitched pretty well, but none of them were at the peak of their pitching during that Tiger series. Even Cade Smith.
No, but I would say of Cade, he gave me exactly what I expected. He gave me a lot of strikeouts.
Right, but he gave up, 1 or 2 runs?
I think he gave up
1
2.
run, 2 runs.
But
these guys gave up nothing in the regular season.
Yeah.
So they weren't as like.
You can't expect them to.
Right.
That's why.
Throw
That's
shutouts.
That's what I
Every
expect.
inning.
What I expect or not doesn't matter. The fact is that the Guardians bullpen in that Tiger series was good. Very good, not
good.
sensational.
Yeah, I'd have him in the very good range.
But it wasn't sensational.
But I think
it wasn't as good as they pitched in the regular season.
I think it's realistic.
And so G's right. It really is about the offense and being able to score.
Well, and for that, whether it's Roki or somebody else,
Yeah.
you can't have 4 outs at the bottom of the lineup. You
No.
can talk about
No.
Kwan, you can talk about Jose.
That's why
you can talk
Rocchio's
about
emergence
Naylor.
has been so key.
Absolutely.
He's the second leadoff
You
hitter
can
now.
talk about the guys at the top of the middle of the order all you want, but you can't have 4 or 5 outs at the bottom of the order.
Nope, can't.
So you need something out of some. I'm not going to say it's got to be this guy, because every game is different.
Right.
Game situations are different. If Rocchio hits a home run when you're down 4 and it's a solo shot, does that help you? No. If somebody gets a base hit in a tie game with runners at second and third, that's going to help you more. So it's not necessarily one guy that I'm going to circle and say, but you can't have a black hole at the bottom of the lineup, 5 through 9, 6 through 9.
Right.
You have to have somebody emerge from the bottom of that
Well,
lineup.
I
But
agree with that.
But I think you approach this the exact same way you did Detroit. They're going to be bullpen games. You get to the bullpen as fast as you can, and you ride
How long
these
can you
guys
do that,
out.
though, Jay?
This is their best chance of success.
You
period.
could potentially have 7 games in 9 days.
Yeah.
And
But-
the
but-
beauty of the Tiger series is you could let everybody reboot for a day.
Yes, but I don't think, because I thought he would extend guys farther than what he did because of the off days, and he really didn't. Like it felt like, okay, maybe you can stretch this guy to 30 or 35 pitches because you have tomorrow off, and maybe occasionally he did, but for the most part, it felt like he kept these guys to their normal limits. He wasn't asking guys to go above and beyond like I thought that they might.
I was surprised that Cade Smith came on to pitch the 3rd inning. To me, in the moment,
used him earlier than I thought.
That's desperate. That's desperate. First of all, I was surprised that Matthew Boyd was done. I know one time through the lineup, but this isn't the Yankees.
But he was in.
I mean, this
they
is
had
the
traffic.
Tigers.
They had traffic through that time through the order too.
and they
Well,
look at it
I
as
think he faced 9 hitters.
They
in
look
2
at it
innings.
as strategy more
He had
than
a couple of
desperation.
walks. I know they look at it as strategy.
Yeah.
I'm just questioning. If you're looking at strategy, why would you throw Kerry Carpenter 3 straight sliders? Like, to me, that is still the big question of the entire series.
Yeah, well-
what are you doing?
I checked around on that.
Who has control of that? Who says they?
Well, Stephen Vogt's answer I didn't like after the game was over.
Well, I
he
talked
basically said it's not my area.
Well, I talked to a couple different people. They said it's really not that unusual. He was trying to bury it in the dirt. Clearly, he missed.
But he missed with the first 2, and he missed with the third one.
The second one was actually worse. The second one was right over the middle
The
of the plate.
second one I thought was big trouble.
And Carpenter just missed it.
And I can't
then
believe he came back with
And
the
he came
third.
back with it again and threw it in the dirt.
He never throws 3 straight sliders. I
Well,
can't
I
remember
mean,
a time this season where he's done it.
We're really going back, but I mean his usage on cutter to slider this year was like 4-1. He was
Right.
80% cutter, 20% slider. It's still a good pitch for him, but I agree. Like if you're going to get beat on your best pitch. But
they was hitting the cutter a little bit though.
that he didn't have good command that
No,
day.
Yeah, he was
that
hitting the cutter a little
I
bit,
thought,
though.
and you pushed him past his limit. I think, did Smith throw 30 pitches?
Yes.
He had to have.
He and Gaddis both threw over 30 pitches.
So, I mean, look, it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah.
I really think it's fascinating, really. We've never seen anything like
it's
it.
leaning into the strength of the team.
We
He is,
saw
but
it when they went to the World Series in
I
2016.
just know from...
Jay, we have seen it. We've seen it a lot in recent years.
We've never seen it to this extent, Bull. We've
Yes,
seen
we
it.
have.
No, in 16, the big thing was get the Indians 6, and it's a bullpen.
He
game.
had one
Nobody
starter.
went
This
six.
was the
Who went
third-
six
this
besides-
was the 3rd inning.
He had one starter
and
and
your
two
starter
relievers.
was out of the game.
The Tigers did it the whole series.
Listen,
Yeah.
they managed like twins.
Yeah.
They both managed. And you know what? They're
Yeah.
leaning into their strength too because they're great. I'm just telling you, as someone who throws a baseball, there is recovery that you can't ignore. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And if this were the regular season, do you know what everybody would be saying right now? Man, you got to pump the brakes on this usage.
Right, but it's
We
not
did
the
say that
regular
at the
season.
beginning of the season.
And you know what? They hit a lull too. They hit a lull. And here's my fear. You had historically the most used bullpen that I can ever remember.
Yeah, but who's
You've got
remembering that? Like, nobody's keep.
Well, you had 4 guys with it had 70+ appearances.
Oh, you mean in the regular season?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
saying this.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
I'm going off anecdotally. I've
Yeah.
watched the playoffs since I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
I can never remember a time where it was suddenly routine, where they're like, here it is, 3rd inning, and the starter's out of the game.
But it's been-
and he hadn't been dinged.
But it's yes, I agree, and I would have personally kept in Boyd longer because I thought he was pitching really well. But that's their philosophy. They don't want to, and we're seeing this more and more. We saw it with the Tigers.
I understand.
Teams don't want these starters that aren't top guys to
I
see
get
a
that.
lineup
I
more
get
than
that.
once.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
My only fear is, in 3 weeks, I'm going to go to Florida. We're going to play 8 games in 7 days. We've got 5 pitchers to divvy up 70 innings. How do you do it? And there's a strategy to it. And there's a strategy to using your relievers here. When you throw back-to-back days, I don't care if it's 30 pitches, 10 pitches, I don't care. When you start tearing those muscle fibers, the recovery process kicks in, and you have to wait for that recovery before you're at 100%. Here was the stat I leaned most on coming into Game 5, why I thought the Guardians were going to win. If you looked at the splits between 4 days rest and 5 days rest, and it's not uncommon. Everybody gets worse after, when you're trying to go on a short, regular cycle. I felt that Skubal was not going to be Skubal because he was pitching on 4 days rest. The difference in his ERA was 1.99 and 3.54.
Yeah, but outside of the Lane Thomas pitch, he was lights out.
No, but listen.
Yeah.
I kept saying, the longer we go,
the
more the 4 days rest becomes a huge factor. Why? Fatigue. The analytics tell you Skubal was about to get hit hard. Here's why. This is a guy that averages 15 pitches per inning. There was 1 out. He had made 17 pitches. He was in the 5th inning on 4 days rest. You know how many pitches I videotaped in Game 5? 4. Lane Thomas was the first one. I said, Skubal's tired. He is due to, I didn't predict a grand slam home run, but I thought, let's get a double. Let's get 2 of them in, at least. I pulled my camera out and I started recording. First pitch. And also because I know Lane Thomas loves to jump on the first pitch. But to me, when you start layering the analytics and you start throwing on top of all of this stuff, Skubal's not nearly the same on 4 days rest. Now he's 5 innings in and there's evidence in front of us he is scuffling. It all added up to him. Right. I was stunned they kept him in the game and let him pitch 2 more innings.
Let me say this, Bull. Yes, are those guys going to be taxed in the bullpen? Sure. But for me, to win a World Series, you're going to need to get something. All the World Series and games you watch, there's always one guy that steps up and gives you 6 innings and you didn't even expect it to get it. Right? You're going to have a starter. I don't know who it is. If you're going to dust Lively off, if it's Gavin Williams.
Lively's not on the roster.
If he's not, they ain't putting him back on the roster.
They did make a change to the roster, but it's not him.
Pedro Avila.
Which I like.
And cut down the hitters.
Somebody's going to have to give you something you didn't expect to get if you're pitching back to back.
I hear you. I think there needs. I wonder if they'll find some sort of balance between what Jason's saying, that they're just going to do the exact same thing, which I tend to lean in his direction. I don't know that I agree with the decision, but I think he's probably right. And what you're saying, nobody's going 6 innings. We're not seeing Matthew Boyd.
I'd take 5.
But I think they might at times have to let these guys, especially Boyd, because he's been real sharp in the playoffs, let him face the lineup twice. And I think especially with an opener, you could do that and get more length from him.
Where it's going to get tricky is the 3 games in Cleveland. That's where you've had the off day yesterday.
Well, then you get 3 days in a row.
You had the off day yesterday. Yeah. Everyone's fresh today, and you operate back to back just like you do in normal baseball season. So you can't extend these guys to 35 pitches tonight, but they're still going to throw their normal allotment.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you add Sobrowski to that you trust and lean on, now you've got 5.
And Pedro being available too, I think gives you a little bit more.
So where they're
he's been great.
Where it's going to get tricky is back to back to back.
Yes.
The 3 games in Cleveland, because again,
I think from Game 4,
you have an off day between 2 and 3, so you can operate 3. And the starters for Games 3, 4, and 5, it's going to be Boyd. I think Gavin Williams. I was talking to Zach in the car about this. He thinks Gavin Williams is going to get the Game 4.
Okay, so that right now is an opinion that it'll be Gavin Williams.
Yes, that hasn't been announced.
I mean, who else could it be?
Zach, exactly.
Well, that's why I keep saying it. They can't avoid it forever.
Yeah.
So eventually they're going to have to pay the bill on some of this stuff, but you have to see where the series is at. But that's why. And if you look at Games 1 and 2, Rodon and Garrett Cole, they've hit lefties well. I don't think Garrett Cole is the same as what Garrett Cole was in the past.
I don't either.
Still
Royals
good.
But he destroys you.
by the Royals.
He kills us.
Yeah.
Tonight is huge for them, though. Tonight is really, really big.
I would say, and I think I said this about the Tiger series too. I said, it sounds like it's so simple. Game 1's the biggest game. I'm going to agree with you. I think Game 1 is the biggest game, and here's why. Partly goes back to what Jeter and A-Rod said when they were sitting at their set. They're parroting what every New York Yankees fan is saying. They all think this is over. They're going to the World Series.
Yeah.
They think it's done. I love that because when Game 1 starts, the fans won't be on the field, but their pressure will be. And if somehow you can win Game 1, now you get to play a house game money in Game 2.
You got to come up with a split.
You
have
got
to
to get
and
a
by
split.
the way,
and if you don't get it in Game 1, now all of a sudden the pressure, I think, switches to the Guardians.
Yeah.
Right now,
Yeah.
going into this game, it's all on New York. Find a way to win Game 1, come home with a split. Now you can win it at home.
And you know what? I know this sounds kind of crazy, but if the Guardians do lose one of the first 2 games, which, there's a decent chance of that it's going to be a split in Yankee Stadium, I'd rather them get blown out.
Sure.
This way the good relievers don't pitch in that game.
Yeah,
if they're
put some
going to
innings-
lose a game.
Put some innings eaters out there and save
yeah.
your arms. I don't want that.
Obviously, you know
either.
what I'm saying. Like,
But
if I knew they were going to lose beforehand.
if I could time it out, I would say
yeah.
give me that in Game 2.
You're right.
Where you win Game 1, Game 2 becomes a house money game.
Right.
And then if you need to throw innings eaters, you do that. And you have the luxury of resting your studs 2 days now.
Yeah.
And then coming home to Cleveland for Game 3.
Right.
It's going to be a fantastic series.
Can't wait.
It hasn't gone well for the Guardians. Their last 3, I believe, have gone to the Yankees. But
beat them in '97.
It's time to end that. It's time.
We're going to talk a little more Guardians after a quick word from Hims. Guys, have you ever felt like you needed a little boost in the bedroom? It's time you stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's health care by providing you with the access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra, and their genetics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site with the medical provider, and they'll determine the right treatment option if prescribed. Your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works best for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That is HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon.
Pause.
Super duper.
Hey,
I just read what they
No,
tell me.
you had. I get it.
You got 4 children sitting out here, so
Yeah.
you got
Good
to.
thing
I
we
got
weren't
4
on
out
camera.
there, and I
We
got
all
2
looked
back
at each
here.
other like, "Wait, what did he just say?"
Yeah,
You wrote
we have
that?
another Hims read later in the show. Guys, speaking
Thanks
of
for the heads up.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, Jose Ramirez and Aaron Judge, neither were him in their opening round of the playoffs. Jose hit 188, Judge hit even worse, 154 against the Royals. Guardians need Jose, as Jay, you mentioned earlier, to play like Jose Ramirez, the MVP candidate, if they're going to beat the New York Yankees in the ALCS. Jason Bull, do you agree with that assessment from Jay?
Probably. Listen, you never know. It's baseball. You can't say that with 100% certainty. But sure, he's their most important player. But, if Jose struggles and Judge struggles, well, then both teams' best
It's like
players
a
are
wash
struggling.
at that point.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say, well, if he has a bad series, they have no chance to win. That's baseball. It's not like, well, if LeBron struggles, there's no way the Cavs are going to win. Sure,
Right.
of course.
Right.
But in baseball, you never know. But yes, it's a massive disadvantage for the Guardians if Jose does not have a big series.
If Judge starts 0 for 3, he'll be booed in his 4th at bat. That's just a fact.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen his struggles in
Which
the
is
playoffs,
nuts.
and we've seen the Yankees fans boo him. Jose Ramirez is not getting booed.
No.
He's just not.
Nope.
He gets all the grace in the world. Aaron
Yeah.
Judge gets that much of a leash. And so here's the problem with that. If he does struggle, then the Yankee crowd becomes our best friend. Boo him.
Yeah.
Put him in a dark place. I'm all for that. So I do think that there is an advantage that the Guardians get, even if they both struggle, because Judge is going to be gripping more than Jose does. I do think that Jose, I'm just not judging on results. I try to do that whenever I can. It's hard sometimes because the results overweigh everything that you see. But I don't see Jose having bad at-bats since game one. He looked terrible against Skubal when he chased 2 strike threes that were in the dirt. At that point, I was very, very concerned about Jose Ramirez.
A lot of people look terrible against Skubal, though.
Skubal can do that to you. And the shadows were bad, too, during both of his bad swing at-bats. But since that point, even though the results aren't there, he's made a couple of great barrel-ups. Balls that were just foul. He's so amped up. How do I know that? He's pulling everything. He's in front of everything. He'll get it. He's a superstar. He'll figure it out. The guy I worry about is Josh Naylor. Because you talk about getting booed at Yankee Stadium.
I've got no faith in Naylor right now.
I don't either.
I think Ramirez is fine. I think he, like you said, I think games 4 and 5 he swung the bat well. So I think he's trending in the right direction. I got no faith in either of the Nailers. They both can't hit right now.
No.
Even when Josh Naylor's gotten on base, it's mostly been soft contact.
Yeah,
he looks even. Yeah. I know he's
Has your mom given up on Josh yet?
She's tripping on Josh Naylor.
I know this is certainly pot calling the kettle black, but Josh Naylor is in terrible shape. He looks like he's in terrible shape.
The jersey getting bigger.
I think he's even heavier than he was most of the time.
Jersey getting bigger.
He's been sloppy at first base.
He has been
I don't know if it's affecting him.
Iffy at first.
Yeah.
And he's softly popping out. Like, it's not even hard contact. It's like, it just almost looks like he doesn't have a good approach at what he's doing at the plate right now. Jimenez is another one. Like,
although he had a good, but Jimenez has been. Listen, he's had a terrible offensive season, but Game 5 he played well.
He was awesome.
He had a good Game 5, and that gives me some hope going into the series, and maybe he's got a little confidence right now.
So the question is, do they need Jose to have a great series to win, or if they want a chance? Nah, man, I look at these. If games is game to game, I look at it at bat to at bat. Like, it's just depending on what matchup you got on the mound in terms of what you're looking to do as a hitter. And plus, there's 8 other guys in the lineup that have to get on base that need to generate some activity. So it's like, if you ain't gonna get it from Ramirez, you got to get it from Naylor. If you're not gonna get it from Naylor, you got to get it from Thomas or Fry. It's one of those things where. You can't. It's not basketball or football. You can't put it all on one guy. But it would be nice.
Yeah,
it'd be nice to be.
I'd like their chances a lot more if they
nice.
have a better series. The one thing that we haven't talked about that I think deserves to be brought up is the fact that Yankee Stadium is home run park. There's more home runs hit in that stadium than any other stadium.
Right field feels like it's 250. Jay.
It's literally
it's a pop fly.
It's Williamsport.
And an interesting thing. Well, Jason, before I go, what do you think about Jose having a big series?
Well, I look at Jose and Judge. Judge, I think I just looked it up, is 760 OPS in the postseason, but 3 of his 13 home runs have come against this team. So he has done well against us with the long ball. So I mean, historically, he's not a great postseason player, but he's punished this team, so that's concerning. Jose, I think Jose's OPS is like 650 in his career, postseason wise, and he's yet to homer against the Yankees. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that changes tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna need some power. It's interesting how I had thought that mostly it was gonna have to come from Ramirez and Naylor, but Lane Thomas just loves the big stage. It's incredible how he has approached this series, and I want to give credit to Bull because there was a time this year when we had all the shovels of dirt on the Lane Thomas casket except one. We just kept saying, but there's he's proven that he can hit. Mm-hmm. And we were all poo-pooing the trade, but you kept saying, even though he's been awful, he has a track record of success. He's going to at some point revert to being who he's been on the back of his baseball card.
Yeah,
and he's
since
done
the
that.
start of September, he's been fantastic.
He's been, I think he probably was the best. He probably had the best numbers in September of all Major League players.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, September was incredible.
Right up there.
And he's carried it into October.
I mentioned this to Zach this morning. Yeah. Just look at who they acquired at the deadline and how people were up in arms about
I know that
what
we didn't do
they
enough.
Did. Lane Thomas, Matthew Boyd, and Alex Cobb.
Unreal.
Your game 1 starter against the NBA ALCS. Boyd pitched great against the Tigers, and Lane Thomas won them the series.
I still would have liked
Antonetti
them.
deserves
I still would have liked them to do more. The owners should still spend more money. But the guys they got have done well.
They hit on all of them.
It's the Guardians' mantra. We're not going to do a lot, but what we're going to do is it's going to be effective.
Their impact moves on the margins.
And we saw it in the clubhouse celebration on Saturday. and we haven't really talked a whole lot about this. It's something I mentioned in spring training. I know you saw it. There's just something about this group. It is unlike any team that I've followed closely in my entire career. I will say I thought that the year the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl, even though there were factions, Warren Sapp and Keyshawn Johnson wanted to beat each other up probably 9 out of 10 days, I thought they were a group that was really tight and they had insulated themselves from everything outside. This Guardians team, from the second Stephen Vogt brought out the slip and slide in Arizona, there's just something magical going on there. Even the veterans that have come in, the Cobbs, Lane Thomas, I think Matthew Boyd even had a similar quote. They're like, wow, I've been doing this a long time. I've never seen anything like this. They're tight-knit. They're all in it together. They want to pick each other up. When someone makes a mistake, all the other guys want to do everything they can. Stephen Kwan said something, I think, after Game 4 where he said, well, we don't want the season to end. I mean, of course we want to win a World Series, but we don't want to say goodbye to one another.
Sure, yeah.
That is unbelievable.
I was talking to Hedges about that when I was in the locker room to do the story on Gavin Williams' tip pitching. So I think that was sometime in September, and they weren't playing great.
Right.
And
early September, right?
Yeah, this might have been late August, early September. They weren't playing great, and I told him, like, listen, 3 weeks is a lifetime in baseball. Like, you have, it must have been September. Like, you had 3 weeks to right the ship. And he's like, listen, nobody in here is panicking. And he even said, like, the Rangers team that he was on last year that won the World Series went through lulls and guys started to press a little bit and grip and panic a little bit. And he's like, this team never gets rattled. They don't panic. And that's why, just going off that conversation with him and what we've seen with our own eyes, I don't think they're going to be rattled by the stage of New York. And, you know, we talked about that with the Cavs and the Knicks, and I kept saying, listen, when you go in the Garden, it's different. And sure enough, those Cavs players, they even admitted the lights were too bright, and they sort of shriveled in the moment. I don't think that will be the case. Yes, it's a young team. Yes, they haven't been overly tested. Detroit is a far cry from New York. I don't think they're going to be rattled by the moment.
Hey, listen, the Royals are in the Tigers category. They're a better team in my view.
Yeah.
But they gave New York all they wanted.
All they wanted.
By the way, I'll tell you something. The Tigers and the Royals are going nowhere.
No, they're going to get used to seeing them in the playoffs.
And this kid, Job, who's struggled in the playoffs, is going to be a hell of a pitcher.
I think he threw 2 innings of
Yeah.
big league baseball, and Hinch put him on a huge stage in Houston, and he did not pitch well.
No, he didn't.
And then he put him on another big stage here, and he did not pitch well. But his stuff
is nasty.
It's unbelievable. So they're going to have a Scooble Job 1-2.
Yeah.
One other point I want to make. This is mind-blowing to me. This may be one of the most overachieving teams I've ever seen, and here's why. I'm going to rattle off the names. Bieber, McKenzie, Carrasco, just because he was an early starter early on, Williams, and Allen threw 1 pitch in the Tiger series, and it was the first pitch by Carlos Carrasco. They're 5 starters early in the season.
No, well, Bybee was in one of the 5 starters.
Bybee was,
yeah.
But I'm saying those are 5 guys that figured heavily into the Guardians' plans. McKenzie and Bieber Bieber and McKenzie were your 1 and 2. Then 3 and 4, it was like, I don't know, is it Bybee, is it Allen, is it McKenzie, or is it Williams?
Yeah.
Bybee is the only guy they broke spring training with that's done anything in the postseason. That's why it's just, if you would have told me that all 5 of those starters were not going to pitch in the first playoff series, I'd say, well, they must have had a nice season. They made the playoffs, but that ended fast. And here they are. It's patchwork like I've never seen before. Chris Antonetti deserves a statue.
One funny thing, Mike, before we get your read, I remember on opening day, I was screaming and yelling on Twitter about Austin Hedges getting the start over Bo Naylor. And funny enough, not that Austin Hedges still can't hit. He knows he can't hit.
I'm okay with that.
However, when I was, obviously after Game 5, between my podcast and the Guardian show, I was spending 99.9% of that time celebrating and talking about the victory. But when we did for a couple of minutes talk about things I didn't like from Stephen Vogt in Game 5, one of them was that he started Bo Naylor over Austin Hedges.
Wow, you've come full circle.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Because as we talked about shockingly on Friday, Hedges actually hit 300 in his career against Skubal. Plus, he's a righty. Naylor's a lefty. And I just feel like Hedges' veteran leadership in these big moments, in these big games, is good for the pitchers. But
I feel like you have come around on Hedgie.
Wow, listen, I was always fine with him being a backup. I just didn't want him to be a starter.
But you can't deny how he handles
the most important player on the Guardians.
He's definitely not the most important player, but he's.
Listen,
I give him his due. I give him his due for being a great leader, being an excellent backup
Jay,
catcher.
have you ever seen an absolute on the fringe player have so much impact on a team on the field?
No,
I haven't either.
No.
Any sport.
I mean, Udonis Haslem is Mr. Heat culture down there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You can make that comparison, but that's
a good one actually.
It's few and far between.
I haven't seen.
I mean, he'd be out of the league if it wasn't for that.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
Zach texted me.
Go ask the Rangers how much they missed him this year.
Zach texted me. He's watching from the gym in New York. Yeah. He says he needs help, that he's watching the show. But he brings up a good point that we didn't mention. He said the X factor for the series is Manzardo. Yankees will be starting three-quarters right-handers, so Manzardo will be in those games.
With a short porch,
and
too.
That's what he said. Some will be at Yankee Stadium where there's a short porch.
He could be the series hero. Because he's got the swing for Yankee Stadium.
So Zach has Kyle Manzardo as his X factor while he's in the gym watching us.
It's a good point.
Zach, you do need help.
Him at all.
But you're right on this
I told
point.
him there's medicine available for
Yeah, there is.
Two things. For everyone concerned about Jason in the chat that he can't move his neck, Jason is okay, just a heads up. Jason,
they could tell that he couldn't move his neck.
A bunch of chiropractors.
Huh?
You look very uncomfortable sitting out
what
there.
happened exactly? Did you sleep on it wrong?
No.
You got 30 seconds. This could be a really long story.
Yeah, it could be really. I have no idea what I did. I didn't sleep on it wrong. I was in Chicago.
You couldn't go to the Browns game, right?
Well, no, I didn't end up going. I was actually trying to get home to do the Guardians game, and I couldn't even do that. We went to Chicago last week for a couple days. I totally messed up my neck, back, scapular type area.
Wow.
I actually am feeling much better now. I'm feeling much better now than I was. Thursday was top 3 pain day of my life.
Oh my God.
And now I told I mean, G's neck is far worse than mine, but I have a new appreciation for what he's been through because it's brutal.
It is.
And the city of Cleveland has a new appreciation for Lane Thomas for what he did in Game 5. We're going to rank that among the all-time Cleveland moments after a quick word from Hillsdale College. History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not, or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed the basic fundamental truths about the world and the place we spend in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning of the history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. Hillsdale.edu/lockedon. In case you missed it, in case you live under a rock, in case somehow you didn't see it, let's relive that Lane Thomas grand slam in Game 5 that put the Guardians to the ALCS. Steve?
Thomas swings, hits a high fly ball deep into left field. It is up. It is going to be a grand slam. Lane Thomas. What a moment. What a swing. It's 5-1 Cleveland.
Broadcast angle. And Jay, you were sitting very good seats. And Steve, let's put this on. We need sound.
Jay, good focus with the camera.
Not really. For a minute it was.
Weren't you jumping up and down? No?
I was trying not to. I was trying not to because I knew I was recording history. I didn't want to screw it up, but...
That's so funny. The guys running behind them at home plate, I didn't know that's how they got that angle. I don't know why, but there's like a camera crew running after him very slowly. Like They're running right behind them to get
It's
the
a
shot.
rig that allows you to run at full speed and you don't get any movement.
That's crazy.
What was funny about the whole situation? Well, give us your thoughts first for being at it.
I know we're going to rank it, and I've been all over the place because I thought, like, wow, where does that rank for me? And at first I thought, I don't want to be hyperbolic. I'm going to say top 10.
Right.
And then I thought, well, let me go through them. And obviously for me, it's going to be the Kyrie 3, the block. Those are 1 and 2.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking other sports. I was just
only
doing
thinking
Guardians.
baseball.
Oh, well, if you're going Guardians for me, it's the only other one that I can put in the discussion because I was in the same suite and Bernie Kosar was there.
Yeah.
And it was the Rajai Davis home run where we were in a three, me, my son, and Bernie Kosar were hugging each other, jumping up and down.
Yeah.
And we did it the entire base path trip.
Yeah.
By the time we stopped and looked out there, Rajai Davis was almost in the dugout.
Yeah.
It was the most euphoric moment of my sports fandom.
I got another one above Lane Thomas.
Really?
Yeah, Rajai has to be number one.
I think Rajai
World
is, even though it
Series.
was, in defeat, it gave us life in Game 7.
Number 2, how quickly we forget.
I know where you're going.
97, Sandy Alomar off Mariano Rivera.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
In the postseason. I was in the bleachers, or not the bleachers, I was in the auxiliary
You were in the spillover press box.
Yes.
I was with you.
Yes.
Didn't
in
know
right
you,
field.
but I was up there with you.
Yeah, in right field. And it was such a thunderbolt out of nowhere. That game was over. That series was over.
Yeah.
And Sandy hit that, and it was like it came out of absolutely nowhere.
But wasn't it?
And they wound up winning the series.
I mean, I thought about that, and I just talked to Sandy about that a couple of weeks ago about the pitch sequence, about everything involved there.
Yeah.
And I have kind of compared that to Rajai, but here's the thing: both were unlikely because you're talking about all-time great pitchers. I mean, Chapman not so much, but at the time there was no one more dominant.
Right.
And to me, Rajai was nowhere near the hitter Sandy Alomar was.
Right.
So,
and that was an unbelievable career year for Sandy. That was a historic season.
he was the
97.
MVP at the All-Star game in Cleveland.
But
it was a great
to hit that home run off of the best closer to ever do it in the history of the game,
in that spot.
That's number 2, and I can't think of anything else, so I would probably put
well,
Lane
you know
Thomas
another
3.
one was
Didn't Kenny Lofton steal home or something against the Mariners?
from second base.
From second base.
That was big
that was
too.
a phenomenal moment. On
Never
a wild
stopped
pitch.
running.
Yeah.
That
Scored
was
2
big.
runs on a wild pitch in Seattle to send them to the World Series. I forgot about that.
That was big. Another one, and again, it's hard to juxtapose these because you want it. Ultimately, they have to win the series for it to be as meaningful as you want. That's why probably what Sandy did put them into the next round.
Yeah.
But the Frankie grand slam against the Yankees in the playoffs. To me, that moment in the stadium felt as big as Lane and Rajai to me. I mean, it was just like we were done.
Yeah.
It was. They were down, I think, 8-0 in that game at one point.
I think I'd probably have to put Lofton ahead of Lane because it sent them. I forgot about that because it sent them to the World Series.
That was huge.
I would put Lane 4 and Frankie 5 because they lost the series anyway.
I just remember him running, and then when he scored, he jumps. I forget who caught him in the air. Somebody caught him. He jumped into somebody's arms. I'm like, bro, this dude just really stole. He just never stopped running.
Never stopped.
And it
he
was
knew
over.
from the second the ball got away from the catcher.
He was going.
He knew he was going.
it.
Yeah.
It's an all or nothing play.
By the way, getting back to the home run and what led up to it, first of all, it was such a weird, quick change because Skubal to that point had going into that inning had been dominant. I know they had one other chance early, but it was a drop ball in the outfield that led to it. He was dominant through the first 4 innings.
He was.
And then they load the bases. But I don't know about you guys. I was still very nervous that they were going to score a run there because Skubal had been so dominant for so long.
Well, you know what I had a flash of was just because this is what he's done the whole series. He's going to get a ground ball double play to end the inning.
But first it's Jose, and then Jose gets hit with the pitch, and for a second you're excited because they tie the game, but then you're like, oh my God, did he get hurt? Because on the broadcast they were saying it hit his hand, and with all the small bones in
Didn't it hit him in the wrist?
It hit him in the forearm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But on the broadcast, we couldn't see it initially. It was hard to tell. They said the hand, so I'm like, oh no.
I knew it was serious the way he reacted. He never reacts like that.
Yeah.
So we're all still like in this moment of like, oh my God, is Jose hurt? We tied the game, okay. And before you could even breathe, first pitch, boom, grand slam, and then everybody's going bananas.
That's the thing about
So it just changed. it was like, this is going to be a nail-biter game, and it ended up being still
What was
close.
stunning to me was, and this is a testament to the Tigers, and they didn't win.
Right.
But what they gained in experience, there are going to be some folks that pick them to win the Central next year. There will be.
Sure, absolutely.
And I had a conversation with one of their fans after the game where I just commended him. I went up to him and I said, listen, I love your team. I love the way they're built.
Yeah.
I love the way they play the game. I love the way they're managed. And they're going to have a ticket at the party for a lot of years to come. Because you mentioned Job earlier. This is a guy that's got way upside promise.
Yeah, they got good arms in the pen, some nice young hitters.
They went through this and they lost, but they didn't lose everything. They gained valuable experience, and they're going to. The Central next year is going to be a juggernaut. It really is. That's why you talk about striking when the iron is still in the fire. Like, this is the moment. It's so difficult to get to this point.
Well,
it's so difficult.
It's the Guardians' first trip to the ALCS since '16.
I know it.
That's how hard it is.
And they've had some great. Look at the 17 team.
That's right.
They were.
That's why baseball is different, because all it takes is one swing. You could be pitching your tail off, you can be mowing guys down, and then all of a sudden you get in a little trouble. You may
the
walk
very
a guy.
next inning they had to go ahead run it at the plate.
Yep, they did. And Carpenter.
I know.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, what am I looking at right now?
And you know, and when Carpenter got up the next time, I was like, please don't make this guy the new Rizzo.
Well, what was funny to me at one point, before Carpenter, as he was walking up to the plate, I said, well, I can promise everybody in this box that you will not see a slider. It's going to be cutter. And when he fouled off 3 straight pitches with two strikes on him, I then asked myself, do you try it? No. Stay with the heat.
And kudos to him. I mean, he couldn't move, and he got the hit off the wall. I mean, that was, for their first run.
I know.
That was pretty impressive.
It was very impressive.
He did that on one leg, basically.
Stayed at first base. He couldn't physically run to second base.
Right. And then, as you said, in that last at bat, where he battled.
That
was a gutsy performance by him.
I had a conversation with some friends that I've played ball with my whole life, and after they asked Clase to get a 5-out save in Game 4, we were texting during the game, and I said the walk from the dugout to the mound is a fourth of the distance from the bullpen to the mound. It's going to feel 10 times longer. And they were like, why? It's about routine. You guys know that in baseball.
Yeah.
What have we asked him to do all season? Come on to start the ninth, get 3 outs, and then set off the fireworks.
Yeah.
In back-to-back games, we asked him to come out of the dugout in the 9th inning. And people, they don't think that that's a big deal. It is a huge deal for a closer.
Sure.
And also having the benefit of our dugout suite was actually, there's a glass partition between Stephen Vogt and myself, literally separated by a glass partition.
Yeah.
And then a pad, and then if I wanted to, I could reach out and touch him. All I'm doing in the bottom half of the 8th inning is looking at Emmanuel Clase. I wanted to see how is he comporting himself.
Right.
Because in Game 4, the TV cameras kept showing, and I'm like, oh my God, he looks nervous. He just doesn't look, his face looked different. It was different this time around. Maybe it helped him doing it in Game 4.
Yeah.
But he seemed, and maybe it was because of the score too.
Yeah.
But he seemed a lot looser and a lot more relaxed.
Do you trust him getting 6 outs again?
I do.
You have to.
I do.
He'll need to at some
how
point
about
in
the
this series.
stare down of Carpenter after he
My favorite moment of the night,
awesome.
except for the home run.
Couple of quickies.
He barked right at him.
Couple of quickies we haven't mentioned. You guys give your thoughts, what you will. We've kind of talked around this a little bit, but I did not like taking Matthew Boyd out after 2.
I didn't either.
I didn't like it. I'm sure you were fine with it. But
I didn't like
against the Tiger lineup, I would have let him face the top of the line. I would have let him pitch 2 more innings. Especially
I would have at least given him, he would have been hitter by hitter.
Yeah.
So if you get the first hitter, and by the way, that's great incentive for a pitcher. They don't want to come out. They live for these moments. You go to him at the end of the 2nd inning and say, you're on a hitter by hitter basis now. Until you lose a hitter, you're in the game.
Next one, he brought in Sobrowski, who looked great. I didn't know why he didn't leaving him in another inning instead of bringing Walters. Now, you can say, well, it's a second guess because Walters looked, and I'm surprised they didn't take Walters off the roster because he looked overwhelmed in that situation.
Yeah.
I said it when they took Sobrowski out. He looked great. Why not let him? He didn't even pitch a full inning. I didn't know why.
I'd rather early than late.
I think
if they were going to one of their great relievers, then I would have been fine with it. But they didn't. They went to Andrew Walters, so I didn't understand that.
Yeah, it was. Well, I said after the second inning when they made the move, I go, okay, now we're in a dilemma.
Yeah.
Now you've got to get 21 outs.
Yeah.
And who's going to give you more than 6?
Well, kudos to Eli Morgan. He deserves a lot of credit.
He was awesome.
Because he never pitched in any kind of situation like at least with Sobrowski and Walters, and Sobrowski did great, Walters didn't. But that's early in the game. I know it's the playoffs, it's game 5, but it's still early in the game.
The later you get, the more pressure there is.
Eli Morgan to come in that spot where Gaddis is clearly running out of gas, and they got to go to Morgan in the 7th inning with the game on the line, and he gets those 2 strikeouts.
Unreal.
And that last strikeout, I don't even know how the ball moved. I mean,
what's
that was
weird. I couldn't tell because I didn't see it. But what's weird to me was that when he came back to start the next inning, he just is just that fast. It was gone.
Right.
Yep.
It was gone.
Right.
And
you were hoping he could get an out or 2.
Yeah.
Really hoping you go 1, 2, 3. I
do wonder if Sobrowski and Morgan have bought a little bit of credibility with Vogt in this next series.
I would think so.
Because I'm telling you, they're going to get to the bullpen as fast as they can again. You're not going to see – but if you have more guys that you trust to throw at them rather than those 4
Last thing, Mike.
I would have left Walters off and put Lively on the roster. I still can't believe that Lively's not on the roster.
I
can't believe it. I think
clearly they don't trust him as a starter.
No, they don't.
But
you know what? At some point, I believe they're going to wish they had him.
We'll see.
And I was stunned also that we didn't see Gavin Williams.
We'll see him in
this series.
Well, no, I mean in long relief in Game 5.
That game.
You've got a guy out there that's stretched out to 80 pitches right now. Why not? But Jason, you're right. There must be some voice in that clubhouse that is like, no, I don't think he's up to the stage.
He was clearly tipping pitches earlier, and I don't know if they've ever got that figured out.
Well, I hope so.
Last thing, after what's been a pleasure to talk about the great team in this town for nearly an hour before we get back to the Guardians, it's going to be fascinating to see how they use the bullpen with Soto a lefty and Judge a righty back to back. You cannot allow.
You can't go hitter by hitter anymore.
Nope. And you cannot allow more than anything. You cannot allow a lefty to face Judge. Period. Boom. And I mean Matthew Boyd will face him once, but outside of that, I can't have Sobrowski, Herron, Cantillo. None of those guys can pitch the Judge. Not interested.
It'll be fascinating. First pitch, 7:38 tonight. Make sure you guys tune in. There'll be an Ultimate Guardian show at some point.
I'll be doing a post-game live right after the game tonight. Watch it in the bullpen, and then Zach and I will do a Guardian show tomorrow morning.
Make sure you guys check it out. We're going to talk a little about the Browns before we welcome John Fanta on in about 25 minutes. But NFL fans can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get in a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/UCSS. Never waste the hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We did our shotgun reactions off the top of the show to the Browns loss. But, I want to read you a tweet from Mitchell Schwartz, Super Bowl champion, played for the Cleveland Browns back in the day. I want to get your initial reaction to what Mitchell Schwartz tweeted following the Browns loss yesterday. This is a quote tweet from a Zach Jackson tweet saying the Browns will stick with Deshaun Watson at quarterback in Week 7 against Cincinnati. Mitchell Schwartz then tweeted, "It's incredibly shitty to do to the rest of the team. Joel Bitonio is out there every week playing through who knows what and has to wreck his body when they have no chance of being good because of the quarterback. Myles Garrett is playing in pain every week. Feel for everyone else there," end quote. Your reaction to Mitchell Schwartz pinning everything, all the Browns' issues, solely on one player?
Well, I mean, Mitchell Schwartz, did he ever play with Joel Bitonio?
He might have played.
I think he did.
Yeah,
was it 1 year?
I was going to ask Jason the same question.
Let me see. I'm going to double check it right now.
I mean, if so, he has a relationship.
He did 2 years with Bitonio.
Okay.
So he has a relationship with his guy. So that's that's who he's going. That's who he's going. Come to his back. Like, it's his guy. Like, so, and he probably knows Joel is.
He did not play with Myles though.
Joel is probably closer to the end of his career, and everybody at the end of their career would like to see him do things and go on and do some things. But I have to say, I mean, Joel has not played that well either. The offensive line has not played. I mean, the quarterback play is the worst in the league, but You know, the offensive line plays the worst in the league. So there's a lot of different areas on the squad that need to be dealt with. And to be truthful, for me, like I almost came full circle because I think of it like this: like, look, if you guys want to change something, change it. You know, I've been on record saying I would have took Deshaun Watson out last week. But that's on them. Like, so you can't, you know, if Joe Batonio feels that way, the door is open. Go talk to Kevin Stefanski. Say, hey, look, man, I've been here a long time. I feel we better under Jameis Winston. But the thing that a lot of people have is that have a great problem with it is you guys are doing status quo stuff. Like you know, you're not changing anything. You're not doing anything different. You're not playing any better. You still got stupid penalties. So, look, you guys have the opportunity to change your destiny every single week. Cleveland Browns come out and they do the same thing. So, while I hear what Mitchell is saying, and it does suck that, you know, guys are playing with pain, but let's be clear. Deshaun Watson's getting blasted too. He's probably playing with pain. If you don't want to play in pain, get better and do something about it.
I was going to ask you, Jay, do you know what the relationship is between Joel and Mitchell?
No, I know Joel is tight with J.C. Treader. They're still close. Mitchell was only here for a couple of years, but I think all those guys.
It's always been a tight group.
I didn't read Mitchell's tweet as anything more than Mitchell's thoughts. I didn't think that was some backdoor from Joel. You
didn't?
No.
Yeah, well, that's why I don't know the relationship between the two.
Yeah.
If they're friendly and they talk, then I think it's likely that subconsciously or not, this was a mouthpiece message from Joel.
It could have been. It could have been.
Now, that's a guess on my part,
yeah.
and I shouldn't do that because I don't know what their relationship is. So I'll do it like this. I'll just say that it's a guy that played here for 2 years and knows Joel, but they don't speak about the current position.
Right.
His tweet, aside from being right, I mean, of course it's right. I think that I wonder if Kevin Stefanski will even hear about that, see that. If he has to be thinking about the careers of two perennial Pro Bowl guys, and who knows, likely one of the two is a Hall of Famer, and Joel, I don't know. I think the jury's still out on Joel. All that being said, I said last week, both here and on Channel 3, I read the definition of insanity. It's when you keep doing the same thing, but you magically expect different results. Now we have 6 games as a body of work. It's a third of the season, more than a third of the season. For anyone who thinks that, well, you're going to get the same thing when you bring in the backup, we've forgotten last year. Last year, we were in a situation where it didn't look good that we were going to make the playoffs, and we bring in a guy who had playoff experience, and magically, no, he didn't beat Houston, but he gave us a memory. He gave us many memories along the way. I think life is about experiences. And for Browns fans, we have to have something that we can cheer about. If you're going to keep trotting this out every week, we know what that looks like. Just if to start the Bengals game, Jameis Winston was to run on the field, what do you think the reaction would be of Browns fans?
Well, plus Nick
It'd be a standing ovation.
But plus Nick Chubb's going to play, supposedly.
Well, hopefully. But it would, I mean, even if Chubb wasn't playing and you saw Jameis Winston come on the field and strap on the helmet, it'd be a standing ovation from the stadium.
Yeah.
So I know it might feel like a Hail Mary, but last year felt like a Hail Mary, and it worked. They gave us experiences. They gave us a reason to turn them on every Sunday afternoon. Right now, there's no reason. I have no reason to turn them on next week other than that it's my job.
And Jay, even worse than that, it's not even just the quarterback play. Like a lot of people have already said, hey, a lot of people in this town are ready to pivot to do something else at quarterback, right? But we get Sean King on week after week. We bring Bernie on week after week. We bring Leroy on week after week. And you know what they all say? Hey, why are we not running the football? Why are we going back to what we used to do better?
It looked like we were going to yesterday.
Yes.
And it worked.
We looked like we were going to it until he ran a reverse on 3rd and 1 with Cedric Tillman.
That lost yards.
I just it's almost like they're allergic to it. They played that way against
And their
Jackson.
defense knew it was coming from the time they broke the huddle.
And the defense looked around like, I know that ain't Cedric Tillman coming in motion.
Yeah.
So it worked in Jacksonville, right? The game plan worked in Jacksonville. So if you're not going to change the quarterback, why are you not pivoting to doing something that has been a proven track record, that worked with backup quarterbacks, that consistently gives you an opportunity to at least be in the football game?
Kevin Stefanski is either derelict in his duties by allowing Deshaun Watson to continue to play, or if he's being told that he can't make the switch, well, then he's being gutless for not standing up to that.
Which one is it, in your view?
I think it's probably B.
It's
Jason.
B. It's B.
I think it's B too.
So
he is too smart of a football man,
right,
to look at this.
So why
doesn't
guys? Why doesn't he stand up to the owner?
It's the $64,000 question.
What can the owner? The only thing the owner could do is fire him. That's it. He gets paid. He is set for life. He's not like most people that if they get fired, their life could be a disaster. That's not the case for Kevin Stefanski.
And that's the right question to
ask. And if he
ask.
can't sit him, he could definitely say, I'm going to run something that I feel like is conducive to what would be successful.
I did feel like yesterday looked more like what we did last year. Am I right? I didn't count.
I thought that.
I saw him under center a lot.
And
to me, I saw jumbo sets.
I've said it all year long. The only way this team can win is heavy sets, extra linemen, establish the run, play action, throw deep on third down.
For a half, it looked pretty good.
I don't think it looked pretty good. They
looked
scored 6 points.
You're right.
They scored 6 points.
No. But the running game, I was saying, oh, wow, this is working. We're moving the football. The third down ineptitude, whatever. At one point, you're 0 for 26. Guys, I've never heard of that in my life.
Jalen,
you luck into one third down pickup here and there.
But when you so these games hinge and twist on a few pivot on a few plays. The Browns get the block field goal. They were out of the game. They run it back for a touchdown. Now you get the ball back at the beginning of the half. You move the ball upfield. You had a couple of nice runs under center. You're doing your thing. You're in Eagles territory. It's 3rd and 1. Instead of doing like every other high school, college, even JV football team and line up with your linemen and a bunch of tight ends and hand it to a fullback.
Jameis in for that play.
They brought Jameis Winston in and did a little funky little end around to Cedric Tillman. You get hit in the backfield, then you kick a field goal and miss the field goal.
Yeah.
And then when you get the ball back, Bull, after the defense stops you, they pin you deep. The first play inside on your 5-yard line, you go 5 wide in the shadow of your end zone, and they sack you on first play. I'm like, dude, this is the craziest 3 to 4 plays in a row I've ever seen. And guess what? You had a chance to get 7, you missed it. You had a chance to get 3 to be up 13-10, you missed it. And then you get stopped there in the shadow of your goal line. They flip the field, and now guess what? You're losing. That's how it all works, boys and girls.
I think beyond the play calling, and I get what you're saying, but generally for me, I don't get I don't get worried about play calling.
I do it with Cedric Tillman on the end around.
Okay, but if it works, then nobody says anything. So they were trying to surprise him, whatever. To me, the most egregious thing about Kevin Stefanski this year is, and I was joking, but I said on my podcast last night that I think he might have been lobotomized in the offseason. Because he's coming off as someone who's very dumb, and I don't know how that's possible because he's not. He cannot manage the clock. His clock management has been awful.
You're right.
His timeout like all these timeouts he's calling before the 2-minute warning, I don't know what he's doing there. Can you explain to me why he kicked the field goal at the end of the game?
No, I thought because of the penalty and they pushed him back.
I don't care.
I agree. I think
you need to score a touchdown.
The only explanation is he doesn't trust his offense to get 7 yards.
Well, then,
that's the only logical.
Yeah.
Well, then, Mike,
change your quarterback.
They're going to have to score a touchdown to win the game.
But
period.
Mike's point also bleeds into the stupid play call of the Cedric. When you don't have a quarterback you can trust, it infects everything. And when you don't have a quarterback you can trust to pick up 3rd and 1, that's when you got to do things like bring Jameis in for the sneak because Deshaun is a sneak.
Trick him.
And we know that he does love the trick plays, and a lot of them blow up in his face.
Yeah.
Though sometimes when they work like Jacksonville, we all stand up here and say it was brilliant, calling end around on fourth down, third down, whatever it was. When it doesn't work, we say it's stupid. And I can't, it looked like a horrible play call. It's clearly something was wrong. Somebody messed up something on that play. But it all goes back to whether or not you trust your quarterback. And they don't trust their quarterback. And this is what you get.
Well, it's his fault. That's Stefanski's fault.
I can't argue with you.
That's it.
I can't argue. Because
if he's playing quarterback he doesn't trust,
I have talked to coaches before, NFL, NBA, not baseball, NFL and NBA. I have talked to coaches who were on the hot seat, who were in trouble, who all said, if I'm going down,
that's right.
I'm going down doing it my way.
And he's not doing that.
And he is not doing that.
And
I don't know that he's in trouble. I don't know. Maybe he is. Hey, if they win two games this year, they're going to be a lot of changes.
Berry should be fired, in my opinion. He should be fired.
Before I start saying that, I really need somebody to tell me what is the hierarchy behind
But
the
we're
curtain.
never going to know that.
Well, they know it.
Yeah.
And it doesned give me comfort knowing that they know it because they can't fix it.
But that doesn't give everybody a pass.
Did you guys see the Jimmy Haslam song, by the way?
Yeah, I texted it to you guys.
Oh,
it was the best.
That.
Yeah.
There's a parody song on Jimmy Haslam.
It's hilarious.
And the Browns.
Yeah.
That is
it's hilarious and pathetic at the same time.
It's sad.
Yeah.
But look, we've got to laugh at something.
Yeah.
We can't just sit here and cry at our record.
Yeah.
And when I watched it, I couldn't stop laughing because it's like a tragic comedy.
Yeah.
And sometimes laughter is the only way out of it.
And this offseason, the conversation's unbelievable. Like, I'm reading this article in The Athletic today. I can't remember who wrote it. Who's the guy who does the six? Was it Sando, maybe?
Mike Sando, yeah.
He's writing about, hey, the solution for the Browns this offseason might be to trade a bunch of first-round picks for somebody to take Deshaun Watson. I'm like, you can't do that.
No, that's tongue-in-cheek.
No, it was not tongue-in-cheek.
No,
it was Jay, he was 100% serious.
The article was serious. I read the same thing.
Well, I mentioned that last week that maybe get Carolina to take him.
But
you guys killed me for it.
The dead money is too overwhelming.
No, it would have to be to a team like Carolina that's got tons of space.
I'm trying to remember.
$100 million dead cap hit?
It's like $170 million before June 1st, 110 after.
That's for 2 years, though, right?
The only way out, I'm trying to do this off memory, that you have to ride it out this year. There's nothing you can do. I think if you designated a post-June 1 cut next year,
110, I think.
it's 85 the next
85.
2 years. It's an $85 million hit.
Each of the next 2 years?
Each of the next 2 years.
Oh,
I think.
God.
Now, they could do that because Jimmy is willing to spend.
That is the realistic
They have
path.
to move. He can't be the quarterback after
Jimmy's
this year.
willing to spend, but this is another stratosphere
But what do you
of
want
spending.
to do? What other choice do you have?
It's not spending. It limits your ability to bring.
It limits
Jimmy
your
will spend the
roster.
money.
That
You
is the
just
issue.
can't build a roster.
And
like
at
that.
some point, Jimmy has a threshold. Gilbert had a threshold at some
Gilbert
point.
Gilbert absolutely had a threshold.
At some point,
But-
Jimmy's got to have a threshold.
Well, what other option
He's
is
going
there?
to build a 700, or he's going
But
to
the
need
difference,
700 million.
the difference was Gilbert's threshold was very real dollars he had to write checks for,
Right.
and penalties and tax penalties. He's got to write the checks regardless.
And they're going to be asked.
This is just dead space. Go look at the Browns' payroll this year. I actually didn't realize this until this morning. I was looking at this morning. Do you know, according to Over the Cap, the highest paid player in base salary now on the Cleveland Browns for this year is Jack Conklin at $4 million.
because they're kicking everything down the road.
Everything else is $1 million to $2 million. And this isn't a criticism.
That's
of
why they have
Jimmy.
the most cap space.
That's why they have,
technically now.
because everybody's base salary is $1 or $2 million, and everything else is rolled into a signing bonus that he has written checks for and already paid out. The highest paid player on the Browns, according to Over the Cap, in base salary this year is Jack Conklin
That's stunning.
at $4.5 million.
crazy.
Deshaun is like $1 to $2 million. Myles Garrett $1 to $2 million.
Yeah.
Batonio $1 to $2 million. Everything has been rolled into signing bonuses. So that's how you create. So people who say the cap is a myth, it looks that way because few owners are like him that will write that many checks up front.
Right, if you're willing to spend.
But the cap is not a myth when it's an 80. We're talking about a realistic path out of Deshaun is an $85 million dead cap.
We'll
hit
find
for the
out
next
the cap's
2 years.
a real thing for
and
Jimmy.
we always talk about the cap as a myth. If that is what we're looking at, and it sounds like that's it, that's the reality. I don't know how you even put a competitive
I don't know how
team
you
on
put
the
a
field.
team on the field.
I don't
with
know
an
how you do it.
The cap goes up every year, and you.
I
and
know
you,
it does, but $85 million
you keep
for 2
restructuring
years
all
for a guy
this.
that's not on your team.
Wouldn't they? Are they better off wasting a roster spot on him and just making him
I
inactive
said
every
that
week
last
next
week.
year?
Send him home.
Yeah.
Just send him home.
That's where I am.
That's what Houston did. Now, Houston wasn't trying to win. That's what Houston did in 2021. They sent him home and paid him.
Well, okay, so 2 questions. At what point is this a tank?
We're there.
Well, are we there? Because I thought it was probably 1 or 2 more losses.
Well,
So
tank. I mean, no, the players aren't trying to lose.
No, the players never want to lose.
Yeah.
The coaches aren't trying to lose either,
Yeah,
believe it
right.
or not.
But there was a time here where they were.
Before we get into tanking McNuggets,
I don't believe the coaches are trying ever.
really
No,
quick, get
never.
your read off.
No.
Yeah, we got 3 more reads to do in the next
Yeah.
20 minutes. Let me get this read, and we'll come right back to this
October, we're
conversation. Jay could
tanking.
ask his second question, and guys, don't laugh because this is a paid read. Okay. If you ever feel like you need a little boost in the bedroom, it's time to stop worrying about your performance and get Hims so you can feel confident knowing you can get hard and stay hard whenever you're in the mood. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis in their genetic form for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their website, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option if prescribed. Your medication ships directly to you in a discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds and thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works best for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That is Hims, HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. Jay, your second question?
So the first one was, at what point do we tank? The second one is a serious question, and I know we've already been talking about this, but if you're Jimmy Haslam and you're writing all of these ridiculous checks and your team is 1-5, is there going to be a point where he looks himself in the mirror in the morning when he's shaving and he says, I may be rich, but I'm not smart when it comes to football?
That will never happen.
Well, listen, typically with egomaniac billionaires, it doesn't. But this guy is going to write checks for $85 million next year and the following for a guy that likely won't have a Browns jersey on. Do you think, you know him a little bit, do you think at some point common sense will take over? Because again, has anybody ever written a check for $85 million?
I don't know that that's going to happen. That's just a way out. I think that's the most realistic way out.
But that's the cap hit because of the way it's restructured.
If they choose to go this way, that's
Jay,
even if he is on the roster,
maybe he might still be. He might be back here next year.
Even if he's the quarterback, I mean, you're doubling down on stupid, keeping him on the roster. You're tripling down on stupid if you keep playing him.
No. Listen, I told people, listen to what I'm saying. I've been saying this for the last 4 months. When people were doing victory laps about how Deshaun Watson sucks and he got to go, I said, well, okay, here's what comes with that. If it don't work, you're looking at a complete rebuild.
Oh,
that's
100%.
That's the only way out of it. Now,
so the cap hit doesn't matter if that's the case.
So the cap hit don't matter in that case. Now, here's the thing. What if, and this is crazy, I know billionaires usually double down on things, right? What is it easier to do? Get rid of Deshaun Watson or get rid of Barry and Stefanski?
Oh, it's easy to get rid of Barry Stefanski.
Easily.
So I'm not saying that's the right choice, but if he's sitting there saying, I can't get rid of the guy because of the $85 million cap hit 2 years in a row, I'm already paying him all these checks up front. Well, listen, that might be the reason they won't let him sit down because he doesn't plan on moving Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. That they're going to hire a new coach and try just like the Cavs are blaming the coach for their failures.
We was tripping on that.
And obviously Watson's his failure is a lot worse than the Cavs' failure. But just like the Cavs decided it was all the coach's fault, that's what the Browns might do too.
For that to be the same scenario, Donovan Mitchell would have to average 2.4 points and 1 assist per game. That's how bad this is.
I agree with what you're saying.
We're not saying I agree with this.
The point is, it's not us saying it. I'm saying the owner might decide, let's just blame the owner. Let's just blame the coach, and let's do it again with another coach.
Because
this will never be the worst trade in sports. That will always be Herschel Walker to the Cowboys.
Oh, I think it's this.
I think this is the
second
worst.
worst.
I think this is the
worst.
But
this led to the Cowboys winning. That led to the Cowboys winning 3 Super Bowls.
We don't have the benefit of the results yet.
If you could, I'll say this:
Houston Texans, they're 5-1.
I'll say this, but
the trade didn't cripple the Vikings.
No, it didn't.
I'll say this,
and that's what I said on Friday.
If you combine it,
Walker wasn't a bust.
If you combine it with the contract extension as the worst transaction of all time, I will agree with you there.
And so you're right on a technicality. Yes. Okay, technically
worst transaction of all time.
Okay,
yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Because it was, to me, what was more egregious than giving up the 3 first-round picks was doing something that had never been done in the history of the NFL. They guaranteed $230 million to a guy that they knew had tons of baggage and they knew hadn't stepped on a football field in almost 2 years.
And if he played great,
will make you do wild things.
And if he had played great, nothing would have mattered. But he's been beyond awful. Even the most diehard Baker fan could not have imagined Watson being this bad. Nobody could have imagined
Could they have imagined Baker being this good now, post? Because most of them were clouded by Baker. Their judgment was gone.
And what if Haslam says, well, listen, you told me that Baker wasn't worth the money. Now he's balling out.
Who told? See, that's why I need to know. Who is telling him? Who bent his ear? Who told him
he didn't?
It'll never happen with Baker.
I need to know. Who
told him Deshaun is going to make it happen? Is that Paul? Is it Barry? It's not Stefanski. You'll never convince me that Stefanski was on board with this. I think he was. Look, when life gives you chicken, you try to make chicken salad.
I think Kevin feels like he can win with whatever quarterback.
I believe that that's the case. But I think if you put a gun to head and said you can have Baker or we can spend $230 million that's not your money and we can go with Deshaun, I don't think he ever wanted this
I think
move.
the reality is the organization rightly thought you couldn't win a Super Bowl with Baker. Time will tell if that was right or wrong. I believe that's correct.
No, you're saying
still.
that they rightly thought.
I believe it's still correct. Now, I give Baker his credit. He's playing well. I don't think he has not proven he can win in the big moments. That's been his big failure. But I give him credit. Yesterday looked awful early, threw 3 picks in the first half.
Back.
And he rallied
all
them
those
back.
picks weren't on him, but
we'll see what he does in the playoffs.
I mean, he threw for 4 touchdowns and 325, and we don't have a quarterback that can throw for 200.
He did a great job. I'm giving him credit.
I know
He's
you
played well.
I know
we'll see what he does in the playoffs. But the Browns felt, and I think a lot of us felt, you ultimately can't win the big prize with Baker. You got to get better at that position. He's a decent quarterback, but that's all he is. Now he's played better than that.
The only way this gets worse
is
if Baker does win the big
prize.
prize.
My God.
Yeah.
I quit that day. That's the day I quit. I can't do a show like that. That would be nuclear warfare on here. And guys, we're going to bring in our next guest in a second after a quick word from Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That is promo code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't have to even win to receive the bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game when you want. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in John Fanta, who has been ticked, pissed off, upset, and thrilled all over Cleveland sports in the last 48 hours. How you doing today, John?
Haven't we all been, guys? Haven't we all been? I'm doing great. It's great to be with you guys. Let me assure all of you, that day is never happening where Baker Mayfield hoists the Lombardi Trophy. You can both be a nice quarterback, but not hoist the Lombardi. That day ain't happening.
All right, yeah.
I think you're right, John.
John, here's the thing. To definitively say it's not happening when he's playing the best football of his career, and his team's 4-2, they should easily be 5-1 at worst. The defense completely let down one game. I think that's too early to say that. Definitively never. I can say that about one quarterback. His name's not Baker Mayfield. His name's Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, stranger things and much worse quarterbacks have won Super Bowls.
Not many.
And you know, John, before you mention that, Jay got season tickets to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Listen, they were my adopted team when I moved to Tampa. They were the Browns, so they became my team. So hell yeah, I remember the Buccaneers hard.
I thought that was Jay setting the cannon off in the big pirate ship down there in Tampa. I could have swore.
I've been out.
I knew it was you, Jay.
I've been out. Boom.
Touchdown, Buccaneers.
Hey, you know what? It's exciting football, and I need some of that in my life, so I've got to watch. Tampa Bay's like my new adopted team. I watch the Browns and still root for them, but come on, for crying out loud. I'm not a masochist.
Baker is. Let's just do a few minutes, Mike, with the Browns and get the bad out of the way, and then get to the Cards.
I agree with that.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Good idea.
Baker is 7th in PFF grade, so I mean, listen, he's having a good year. Kudos to him. He's doing.
Where's
well.
our guy?
But our guy is.
Not on the board.
He's.
Oh my God.
33rd.
Let's see. 23rd. He's going to be a lot more. I don't know.
Guys.
No, I said 33rd.
Guys.
28th.
You all dated people, right? You all dated people, okay? At some point in your life, you've been dating a girl, right?
Yeah.
You could have a girlfriend that a couple of weeks in, she comes over to your house for dinner, and the dinner goes awful, and then it just keeps regressing and getting worse and worse and worse, and you're like, I need to rip this Band-Aid off, okay? You could also have the girl where you're like, oh man, she's got a lot of good qualities, and then you start to talk about important things in life, and you're like, oh no. She's not going to be my wife. She's just a great girlfriend. That's Baker Mayfield. He's a nice date. He's a good date to bring in the dance. We're talking about putting the ring on the finger here.
All right,
That's why the Browns didn't stay with Baker Mayfield.
Here's the problem. They broke up with Baker and married Deshaun, and now there's a $170 million alimony waiting to, or a divorce settlement waiting to be written.
Yeah, but to me, the whole argument doesn't have much of a point today, because at the end of the day, we can't change the past. The Browns made a mistake. Nobody's going to deny they made a seismic mistake. And also, we would take Baker Mayfield over Deshaun Watson. We would take Jameis Winston over Deshaun Watson, or at least most people would. I know, G. Bush, you got some thoughts on this whole equation.
No,
I'm not here to fight about that.
I was a whole week ago.
Last week, he said
I would take, for the record, I would take DTR over Deshaun.
Yeah.
Jason Lloyd. I'd take Seneca Wallace over Deshaun.
Today.
I'd give Charlie Fry a shot. Give Jeff Garcia a look. Give Thaddeus Lewis a shot with a little option
What's Spurgeon Wynn doing?
What is Spurgeon
Wait
Wynn
a
up
second.
to?
What about Johnny Manziel? That's the toughest one.
Yeah.
You've gone way too far.
Of clear mind.
Fellas, I'd take Bob Wiley at quarterback if it meant that I got to watch something different. Because at least it would be fun to watch. They made one of the all-time worst organizational moves in football history. The question is now, you're at a point, you're 1-5. The question's not about whether or not this is ever going to get figured out, right? The question is, what's the end result? Clearly, Kevin Stefanski did not just lose thousands of brain cells. I refuse to believe that in the same calendar year, he went from the level that he was at come January to the level that he's at right now, which right now it looks like he's one of the worst coaches in the league. But there's more to that. There's got to be more to that. The point is, Kevin doesn't have control of the situation. This falls on James Haslam. Jimmy Haslam, when he took over the Browns, he promised that the same old dysfunction would go away. And let's face it, he also promised that 1-31 would never be had again. The way this football team's going about it week in and week out, they're not far from 1-31. It's unacceptable. It's inexcusable. Jimmy, we appreciate you spending money. And we can appreciate an owner who wants to win. Nobody's ever going to deny that you want to win. But you got to acknowledge that this was a massive, massive mistake. And I don't want to hear that it's going to take 4 or 5 years to build this thing back up. But the fact is, you got to get a nice draft pick. Look at the Commanders. Look at the Texans and how quickly they got back up. And you got to draft the right quarterback. And guess what? I'm not letting Andrew Berry draft that quarterback. Andrew Berry can't draft anymore. They got to blow it up.
I think that's fair, John. Here's the question, though. Do you trust, and I would fire Andrew Berry already. I agree with you. But I don't trust Jimmy to hire the right GM next to make that pick. That's the catch-22 we're in.
It's a great point, Adam, and I think that's where you then, Adam, if I'm a fan, I say, well, then what's the point of the whole operation? Then maybe Jay's right. Maybe he should start watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But guys, this is the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Why does this show exist? This show exists because there are passionate Cleveland sports fans who live, breathe, sleep, die all this stuff. That is the fact. And nobody is going to get off the Browns wagon. So yeah, do I have a lack of trust with Jimmy Haslam? I think everybody's wondering what the heck's going on. You just hope. You hope that at some point, and sometimes you can't to show a dog new tricks. You just hope and wish that someday that he wakes up and gets to his senses and says, you know what, I got to hand this all over to somebody who knows football, not a Mike Holmgren, because we've seen that formula before. Oh, Mike will solve all the problems. To the right person. You're right. There's more doubts than answers with Jimmy Haslam in his tenure. But as bad as it's been, and as dysfunctional at times as the Browns have been, and I remember that hit piece on Haslam ESPN did a couple years ago. You could talk about how bad it's been at times. They still have been in the playoffs 2 of the last 4 years.
Yeah, with a backup quarterback last year. John, on the lack of trust in Haslam, what I don't know, and I think nobody does, but you said you hope that he goes out and finds a guy that knows football. Well, he went out and found a guy that knew baseball to an extent in Paul DePodesta. And the big mystery with this organization is who actually has, the golden key, who has the last say. And so history may prove we end up punting on Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski when in fact they're just doing what Paul DePodesta is pointing them to do. And I have long on this show argued that Paul DePodesta is the cancer in the organization, and somehow he had the magic words to whisper to Jimmy that made Jimmy think, you know what? This is the guy. This is the guy that's going to turn our fortunes around. Everybody else in the organization has been replaced multiple times, except for Paul DePodesta. We have lost 2/3 of our games since Paul DePodesta has been in this organization. If he indeed is the loudest voice, it's clear it's time for him to go.
Well, DePodesta hasn't been here the entire time Jimmy's been here.
No, but he has spanned multiple GMs and coaches. He was the guy that won the power struggle. Under the Browns with Jimmy, with Paul DePodesta, of baseball fame, he might as well have hired, what's the guy, Jonah Hill? What's his name? Who played Paul DePodesta in the
Jonah Hill,
He might as well hire Jonah Hill.
No, this isn't hey, let me keep the chief strategy officer and everybody else stays. Everybody's a part in this problem. There's not one person to blame for this problem. But what I do know is people are getting paid a not small amount of money to do what we've seen over the last 6 weeks, and that is unacceptable football. I don't even want to call it that. It looks like the Browns are playing a different sport when you watch the Lions yesterday.
All right,
when you watch the Vikings, when you watch the Steelers even. When you even watch the Steelers, they have buy-in. They have competence. They have organization in what they're doing. No, this is Paul DePodesta, he's the man behind the curtain. Paul DePodesta is the banker in Deal or No Deal. He's in that dark room like the phone rings.
With a lot of envelopes.
And I'm just supposed to... I'm supposed to either press the button or slam the thing down and keep playing in the next round.
John, you're putting your life on the line. You pulled off on the Garden State Parkway to do a hit with us.
Is that the Garden State Parkway or is it the Turnpike or what is it?
This is the Garden State Parkway, and this is the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And I will stand in the way of a semi for the Cleveland Browns.
Let's go. But if you're going to do it, let's talk about something that we all love and can cheer about, and that's the Guardians. Go.
That's right.
Guys, this is one of the best stories in sports. We talked over the summer, and I said it was as good a story as any in baseball, and it is. I think for baseball, it's wonderful. Of course, for ratings, the New York teams, the Los Angeles Dodgers, but the fact the Guardians are one of the 4 left standing is a model for everybody in this sport. What this team's doing is absolutely exceptional. I think it's one of the most satisfying stories that we've had in Cleveland. One of the most in my lifetime. I'm 29. I can't remember a bigger surprise and a more refreshing team. They're so likable. Their superstar took a hometown discount. The leadoff hitter, Stephen Kwan, anytime you listen to him speak, it sounds like he's on a college team. The guy has so much passion for the city, and he just wants to win. David Fry, that guy was thinking about getting out of baseball and getting a day job because during COVID, his career kind of got derailed, and he faced a lot of hard questions. Matthew Boyd, Alex Cobb. These are guys who were afterthoughts entering this season. Now look at them. Alex Cobb is starting this playoff game tonight, and they have the best pitcher in the game in that closer, Emmanuel Clase. Emmanuel Clase, I'll count on him to get 6 outs. I know they won't actually do it. I'd count on him to get 7 or 8 outs. You know why? I know that guy's going to compete, and that's what this team does. They compete, and what we saw as the series go on, fellas, that I think is crucial against the Yankees is lineup length. That lineup got longer. Andreas Jimenez started the big inning with a bouncer through the left side. Brian Rocchio has found it. If Josh Naylor finds it, he's got to find it. If he can find it, this lineup will really look the part.
And Hosey.
John, when you take when you take a look at the series, we start off in New York. How imperative is getting a split coming out of New York coming back home?
It's everything. You got to get one of the first 2 because then G. Bush, it's a 5-game set and you got to win 4 or 5. That's probably not happening. They got to get one of the first 2 here, and that's out of respect for the Yankees and the superstar power they have. But that'd be against any playoff team. You couldn't. It's very hard to take 4 or 5 games from anybody, nor alone this team, nor alone you'd have to go back to the Bronx and do it in game 6 and 7 in all likelihood. They got to get a split here. Tonight, I think a lot of people walk into tonight and they're like, the Guardians are in the best role tonight. The Yankees are the heavy favorite, right? The pressure's on them. The Yankees didn't get tested as much as the Guardians did. The Guardians will not face a pitcher better than Tarek Skubal the rest of the playoffs.
That is correct.
Yeah, you heard me. If they're winning a world championship and you ask them at the end of the run who's the best pitcher you faced, it's going to be Tarek Skubal. Carlos Rodon, he's beatable, guys. You not just look at the ERA, but the Royals got to him. And the Royals had 1 inning. They had a big 4th inning in that game that they got on Rodon, and then they ended up winning the game. For Cleveland, you're playing with house money in game 1. Yeah, the pressure would enter in game 2. Play loose. Come up ready to hit. If that lineup keeps churning, guys, that's the question for this team. When they fell behind in the Tigers series, you know why? They went scoreless for 17 straight innings or 18 straight innings. If this team has some hitting, they're going to win.
John, we were arguing earlier about how Stephen Vogt will use the bullpen and how long the leash will be on the starters. Jay and both think the starters have to go longer. I say absolutely not. He's going to use the bullpen the exact same way. He's going to get to it early and go through all those guys. Which side are you on?
Jason, to me, in a game 5, if he was willing to take Matthew Boyd out after 2 innings, I'm not going to start to think he tries to do a bunch of different stuff now. I think he trusts that bullpen with his life. And you know what, guys? The Guardians have taken this from Tito. Win the day. Win the day and then figure it out the next day. Vogt's going to be bold. I was at something in New Jersey this morning watching a college basketball team practice, and a couple of the people were Yankee fans. And you know what? They turned to me and they said, whoa, your manager clicks some buttons. I'm like, that's what he does. This guy is truly, we get cliche in Disney World when we use team terms and stuff. Sometimes it's pie in the sky and terms that are fake, but this is real. This guy truly has a belief in everybody on that roster to deliver. Now, are we going to see Andrew Walters in a critical situation? I don't know. I don't know about that necessarily. What I do know is this. I think for this ball club, at some point, Jason, you can both say he'll pull the trigger with that bullpen, and I agree with you, but they can't get nothing from Joey Cantillo and Gavin Williams in this series. One of those 2 guys is going to have to step up at some point and be a bridge.
Yeah.
I think Gavin Williams is going to start game 4, and I think he should. And he pitched really well. He's pitched really well against the Yankees, and I don't know. I know there's risk with him, but it's not that high because we know Vogt will just pull him out if he doesn't feel it. But there's also as much upside on Gavin Williams as any pitcher that could possibly start for them. So I think he could be a factor in this series.
Absolutely. I thought he might start tonight because I thought if he ever delivered a good start, the Guardians would be set up really well. Think about this. Right now, you guys you have to feel okay about the lineup. Like the last 2 games of the Tigers series with their backs against the wall, the lineup stepped up.
We're not worried about the bottom. We're worried about 3 and 4, which is odd.
I know. And that's kind of why what makes you feel good, because honestly, guys, at some point, the laws of averages say one of those two is going to get going. Just like Yankee fans are saying, like, Judge is going to get going at some point because he was 2 for 13 in the ALDS. If this team gets starting pitching, they can win a world championship. That's what we've been saying all year. And frankly, in the Tigers series, they got it for the most part. So you see those numbers right there. I mean, that's just glaring for Judge. Clearly, it's not just opponent. I mean, the Royals, it's not like they're world beaters on the mound. It's clearly a mental thing that he's got to try to overcome. Hopefully it's not against us. But I think when you look at this team, at some point, they've got to get it. They have to get something from Gavin Williams because he's too talented to not. And when you're trying to beat the New York Yankees in a 7-game series, you got to have a surprise. Maybe it's Gavin Williams. Maybe it's a Cantillo. Maybe it's Josh Naylor breaking out and doing something unthinkable because, God, he needs to. But I do think if you're going to beat the Yankees, you've got to have an element of surprise. And that's why, Bull, I kind of like the idea of Williams being a middle game guy in this series. Yeah. And what happens, Bull? What happens if Gavin Williams does show his best? Because you know it as well as I do. If Gavin Williams pitches his best, you could argue he's the best pitcher on that Cleveland roster.
No doubt. He's got the most upside of certainly any starting pitcher on that roster,
Jason,
no doubt.
You looked into his tipping pitches. What did you find?
Something was going on, and they feel like they identified what it was, but I don't know if he's really truly cleared it up or not, because his fastball was getting hit harder than it's ever been hit. And he knew it. He was very open about it. I talked to him and I talked to people on the Guardians. He very much was tipping his pitches, and particularly his fastball. And they think that they've identified it, but I don't know.
And this was with a pre-movement. Like it was before he went into the stretch or windup. I mean,
if other teams can figure it out, the Guardians, I'm guessing they figured it out.
Well, the key is, because the
key is correcting.
I've played with guys that tip pitches.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to identify it.
Yeah.
But it's even harder to fix it.
Right.
You're talking about idiosyncratic muscle memory.
Sure.
And if your grip, if you're raising your wrist, if you're dropping your elbow, whatever it is you're doing, it's really hard to wash that out of what you do.
Right. John, let's wrap it up with this. Give us your prediction. Yeah, there he is. Give us your prediction for this series, and I'm putting you on the spot right now because you are Mr. College Basketball. Who is winning the national championship in college hoops? There you go.
The Cleveland Guardians win this series in 7 games. They win this series in 7 games. They take it at Yankee Stadium next Tuesday night. Don't know how, don't know why. I just have a gut feeling about this ball club. And, guys, I just think that they can outgrind. There's nothing too big for this Cleveland Guardians team. And the organizational trajectory of this team could not be better right now with the future prospects coming up, with Bazana making that draft pick, and with some of the guys they have under contract. Like, I know we're focused on the now, but they have Clase, they have Lane Thomas. They've got some control over some of these key pieces. Cade Smith. It's never been a better time to be a Cleveland baseball fan, and that's saying a lot. I just think there's so much that's refreshing, so much to like. Who wins the national championship bowl? Wow, that is a heck of a question.
UConn.
I don't think it's Connecticut this year. I don't think it's Cooper Flag and Duke, who, by the way, is going to be a daily debate topic discussion point. I'm going to go a little bit outside the box, and I'm going to say Gonzaga and Mark Few finally climbed the mountain.
Wow.
Look out for the Zags this year.
All right,
they got an experienced group back, and they're going to do it.
And John will be on my podcast this week as well because we love him. Thanks, John. You're the best.
Love you guys. We get to watch baseball tonight. How awesome is that?
That's right.
No
That's right. That's
Especially
right.
when football season's already over. Thanks,
crazy.
John. We appreciate it.
True.
I can buy into the Guardians pick because he didn't say Cleveland State was going to win the college basketball championship. Because that would have been too Cleveland. But, wow. Do we give picks? What do we think here?
I'm picking the Guardians at 7 as well.
Yeah, I am as well.
I'd say 6. I really think 5. I'm really nervous about Game 5. We got to get there, but that I think is a really big swing game in this whole thing because of the way that the Guardians use their bullpen. That'll be the first time in this series, the first time this postseason that they'll have played games 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
I circle Game 5.
Get through that.
Guardians at 6.
Wow.
We're all picking the Guardians.
You know what that means. Mike, you got to pick the Yankees.
I'll pick the Yankees just so we're not unanimous.
Yeah.
I got one more read, and we got a bunch of Super Chats to wrap up today's show. Super Chats today are
before you
brought
read
to
them,
us.
really quickly, I want to do a push for memberships. We haven't talked about one of the biggest sporting events over the weekend, and that was the Ohio State-Oregon game. Oregon's coach, Lanning, made a brilliant move at the end. He found a loophole in a rule that is absolutely going to be changed very soon. But we're going to talk about that in overtime. So if you're not a member and you want to be a member, it's $5 a month. Just click the tab there and subscribe, become a member, because we're going to talk about the Ohio State-Oregon finish in overtime. I don't want fans to think that we completely neglected it. It's just there's a lot else going on.
And we're going to talk a little bit about it more tomorrow with Tyvis and Dustin, who obviously both played at Ohio State. But Super Chats today are brought to us by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses. Here are just a few of them. Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, the Great American Story, A Land of Hope, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper on readings with quizzes, discussions, or just simply enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. All right, Super Chats. The Goober216 says, is this what it was like being a fan in the early 2000s? Referring to the Browns and their struggles.
You don't have to go back that far.
No, just go back to 15, 16, 17.
1 in 31 is not that long ago.
Are you sure you meant Browns and not Guardians?
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure. That was
But then if you would have said the Guardians, wouldn't you say the
Go to
90s?
16.
90s.
Or you just go to 16.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he was probably
in the 90s, the Guardians were absolutely expected to win. They were the behemoth in baseball.
mean, the Indians took over the city.
Yeah.
95.
I have a friend, by the way, who told me hasn't watched the Guardians the entire regular season, and now he's living and dying with every pitch in the playoffs.
That's awesome.
Next Super Chat comes from Chris Fox, who says, why do you guys talk about Prize Picks if you can't use it in Ohio? It's a national ad deal, and we have a lot of viewers that aren't in Ohio, so that's why we still do the
Half
read.
of our viewers are out of state.
We
More
are
than half.
worldwide.
55% now out of state.
Wow.
M. Bine says, just a theory. When they wanted to move off Baker, they let him play. If we won, it's a win. If not, it's easy to move on. Deshaun, if we won, okay. If we don't, look like we are tanking, but we still are and get a good draft pick. Donnie M says, I know this is a question for next season, but do you think the Guards could afford Juan Soto if he hit free agency?
No.
Juan Soto?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bull just got snapped out.
They can afford Juan Soto, but they will not spend the money to pay Juan Soto.
Zero.
And you can argue whether or not the market forces, if they can't afford it.
I guess you could argue it. I
It's gonna be a
don't
bidding
buy
war
for a
between the
minute
Yanks
that they
and the
couldn't.
Well,
afford
I
it.
can automatically dismiss any talk of that. It will not happen.
Of course it won't happen.
Period, full stop.
Yeah.
Can they?
I'm not even sure they can
I don't
afford
think
Stephen
their owner,
Kwan.
I don't think their owner has the means. He'd have to write checks that are his. And can you imagine if
I don't believe that.
If Dolan had Haslam's money and free willing to spend it?
How do we know how much money Dolan has?
We don't.
No, we have a pretty good idea.
We do?
Yeah, we know.
I need to see the Baker.
We know. We found out how little he had when COVID hit.
But to Jay's point, I think that the league more than supplement. They could spend more based on the revenue share they get from the
100%.
league.
Oh, they could spend
That's
more.
true.
But he's
the money
not flush
he's
like
not
you think.
Haslam's. He's an attorney.
Yes.
They made their money off Cablevision.
Yeah,
they're a mom and pop shop
by
in
the way,
terms of owners today.
We
I
have
don't
a
know
ton
if
more
it's
Super
symbolic or
Chats.
what, but G's Kool-Aid flag just fell.
They can still spend a lot.
Yeah, that is
more.
symbolic.
Go ahead,
That up.
Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It just,
Next
while we
one
were
comes
talking,
from
it just
Edward Zupan, who says, can Stefanski grow some balls like Shanahan? DB Dog 21 says, does anyone have the hammy call of the Grand Slam? I can't find
He
it.
wasn't on the air.
call. It was
He
a
wasn't
middle
on.
inning.
It was
Yeah.
Rosie.
It was Rosie, who was just fine.
Yeah.
Michael Ribovich says, this is the first Browns game I have ever chosen not to watch since they choose not to change anything. I'm choosing to enjoy my Sundays.
That's apathy.
I wouldn't have watched.
I'm
if I
hearing
didn't
more
have
and more
to.
of that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have watched
Mikey
if I wasn't
McGee
on
says, I loved Wild Thing playing when Class A came out in
that
Game
was awesome.
5.
How
which was-
perfectly timed was that, too?
Good job.
Like literally, the Wild thing lyric came up exactly when he walked out of the dugout, out of the bullpen.
KD23 says, how much is the choice routes concept contributing to the disconnect between quarterback and wide receiver? I think it's impossible. Like, who knows?
It's so
they're not on the same page, whatever it is.
It's so bad right now. You can't tell which is which. Your car stopped in the intersection and smoking, and all the lights is on. How do I know?
And there's
what's
a semi truck with no brakes coming at.
Right. You just like,
Reggie Glover says, I personally think Deshaun should be under center on first and second down. Reason is go back and look at the production of the passing game and running game when he was. Tell me I'm wrong. He went 8 of 8 passing. DB Dog 21 said.
That's when the Eagles backed off defensively. They were playing conservative because they thought the game was over.
DB Dog 21 says, yesterday the jet sweep was a check by Jameis. Hard count showed linebacker fill the A gap where the sneak was supposed to go. Bad play to check to. Christian said, doesn't matter who's hired if Haslam is still there. DB Dog 21 says, Stefanski said he could win with Baker. Paul wanted Watson. Casey Reese said they will manage dead cap by cap going up. They'll have a rookie quarterback contract. G. Bush's bad back said, I said it last week. I would play Jameis, draft Travis Hunter, play Jameis all of next year to be the bridge to Dylan Raiola. And G. Kev called for the sneak and Jameis checked out of it. 2 more. Gleazy Baby 43 said, someone correct Jay. Ideally, last year when we switched quarterbacks, we were, quote, we're not, in fact, in any fear of missing the playoffs. We were 7-3.
No. I'm talking about when what was our record when Deshaun got hurt in the Baltimore
he was
game?
5-1, 4-1 last year. What was his record?
I don't think we ever started 5-1.
No, but the games he played.
No. What I'm asking was,
what was the Browns' record?
Yeah, what was the Browns' record
after
the Ravens win? What was our record? Which is right about now, I think.
It was November.
They had lost.
It was week
late?
10.
Yeah.
After I got it right here. After the Ravens game with the comeback, the Browns were 6-3.
Yes.
Okay, so at 6-3, without our starting quarterback, did anybody here think that we're going to the playoffs? I didn't.
I don't think so, but there's a big difference between being 6-3 and
1-5, a huge difference. But
right.
the feeling is the general feeling is the same. There's layers to 1-4. Yesterday, the Browns at 1-4 felt terrible.
Yeah.
The Bengals, you've got Joe Burrow. You feel a lot better about yourself.
Last one, Daryl says, UCSS Fire, as always, love you guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you in overtime.
Daryl.
Peace.
See you in
Hope
overtime.
you're mending well.